Chapter 594. Chapter 594 The Decisive Battle. Sorry, but our Huayuan auction houses have a responsibility to keep the identities of our sellers confidential for their own safety. Please forgive me for not being able to answer you, said Yao Niming. On one hand, they truly did have a responsibility to keep it confidential. But on the other hand, Yao Niming really did not know just who had sold this divine soil. Zheng Wenlong had merely handed it to him and said it was from a mysterious client. Since it was given to him by Zheng Wenlong, then it meant Zheng Wenlong was sure it came from a clean origin. He hadn't asked any further. Keep it confidential for their safety? That person definitely has to be an enemy of my Yin family and was intentionally trying to harm us. If you refuse to answer then you'll raise down my auction house? Alright, please go ahead. I welcome you to raise it down at any time, sneered Yao Niming. He directly ignored them, pulling Yao Niqin back into the auction house. The spectators also sneered inside. This elder from the Yin family was definitely used to using his status to suppress others. But he should first be aware of who his target was. The Huayuan sect was an enormous existence that even dared to challenge the Pill Tower. For them to open their mouths to say they would raise down their auction house, they really had to want to die. They weren't polite because they were afraid of you. They were polite because they had professional integrity. Now the Yin family had truly done it. With the Huayuan sect ignoring them, it was like they had just slapped themselves. Brave warriors from the Yin family, don't be afraid. Raise down their auction house. I'm very optimistic for you. That's right. Look at how many people you have. If you just left things like this, wouldn't you have just turned into a bunch of little turtles? What would happen to the face of the Yin family? Go on. Hot-blooded heroes, use your fists to smash their entrance. Let us see just how amazing an ancient family is. I'm cheering for you. Many people cried out, trying to incite the Yin family's people to attack. Of course, they didn't dare reveal themselves and simply shouted from the shadows. This was a typical case of bystanders not being afraid of seeing a big mess. Furthermore, they had long since grown tired of the Yin family's arrogant manner. The elder's expression was cold, and he had an urge to kill, but he also didn't dare to do so. In the end, he brought his people away with a gloomy expression. Damn, no way? He's this cowardly? He came so ferociously, but now he's leaving so hurriedly. What a weakling. The spectators were disappointed. The good show they had anticipated had ended like this. Most disappointing of all, they weren't going towards Mo Gate but outside the city. Wait, isn't that direction where that mysterious power is located? What? Is the Yin family about to join hands with that power to target the Mo family? Then that really would be dangerous for the Mo family. That really is possible. Long Chen killed Yin Wushang's clone. I heard that completely ruined his plan of advancing to a rank 2 celestial. Their enmity is now set in stone. Now that Long Chen is hiding in Mo Gate, the Yin family has to break through Mo Gate to kill him. The Mo family is probably doomed this time around. But it really is curious. From the start, they've ignored everything happening, minding their own business as if they're not nervous at all. It's impossible to tell what they're thinking. The power targeting the Mo family had finally revealed its face in the battle at Hidden Dragon Abode. But that middle-aged man and his group of experts were truly mysterious, and they hadn't fought. However, there were people who guessed they were definitely on the level of an ancient family, or they wouldn't have been able to work with Yin Wushang. If that guess was correct, then in the face of two ancient families, the Mo family would definitely be destroyed. There was no suspense at all. However, the calmness that Mo Gate was displaying was truly unfathomable. Most importantly, the Mo family still had yet to go out and ask for help from anyone. They were completely silent. Qing Prefecture had already begun to become chaotic. Following the destruction of the three great powers, Mo Gate had become the sole ruler. But now Mo Gate was being threatened by two other powers. Quite a few outer powers saw the opportunity to stretch their hands toward Qing Prefecture. There were even some powers that slowly began annexing the businesses left behind by the three great powers. That was clearly a provocation to Mo Gate. But Mo Gate still didn't react. In fact, some powers forcibly seized some small parts of their territory, and Mo Gate still didn't make a sound. As a result, the things the three great powers left behind became a complete mess, as many smaller powers tried to absorb them. In fact, some even looked like they might reach the same power level as those three great powers. They were all just waiting for their chance. Once Mo Gate was destroyed, they would instantly enlarge their territories. They weren't thinking of becoming the ruler of Qing Prefecture. They were just hoping to get as many benefits as possible before the new ruler was established. Once the Yin family's experts left, the others also scattered. Qingzhou City became deathly silent. It was filled with the feeling of the calm before the storm. Today, Long Chen's mood was very good. As soon as he left his seclusion, he heard a piece of news that raised his spirits. The Yin family's fruit trees had begun to wither. Everything was going as expected. The Yin family's people were truly too greedy. Did they not understand the concept of not putting all your eggs in one basket? That divine soil might have allowed them to produce a great deal of meridian opening spirit cliff fruits, but that was no different from killing the chicken to get the eggs. Now the Yin family had truly been given a grievous blow. With their lifeline severed, with no further income, the Yin family was definitely acting like ants in a hot pot. Furthermore, what excited him even more was that after eating a ridiculous number of pills, the life fate star had finally reached perfection. That meant he could finally summon the 3-star battle armor. Then the effect of the heavenly Tao suppression would reduce even further. With the 9-star He Gem and body art, Celestials were unable to suppress Long Chen. Young Master Long Chen, the Immortal Intoxication Pavilion Zi Yen sent you a gift. One of Mo Gate's guards respectfully handed Long Chen an embroidered case along with a letter. Zi Yen. Long Chen was startled. Why would she send anything to him? Opening the case, he saw a photographic jade. There was nothing else. Opening the letter, he saw a single line of graceful words. Our meeting in the mortal world was like a dream. I played my first song to listen to your heart. Now that I'm returning to my world, I leave this song to calm your soul. Read Mo Nien. Damn, is this a love letter? Are you a ghost? When did you get here? Long Chen saw that at some unknown point, Mo Nien had appeared behind him. Hee, Long Chen, how skillful. That Zi Yen actually wrote you a love letter. Hurry, let's see what's inside that photographic jade, said Mo Nien. Well, she left this just for me. I don't think you, how are you so fast? Long Chen had only gotten half his words out before Mo Nien activated the photographic jade. An image appeared in front of them. Within that image was a white-robed woman sitting beside a zither. She appeared extremely noble. Willowy eyebrows, eyes like autumn water, and skin like jade. She was like a sacred goddess, noble and grand. This is Zi Yen? How beautiful! Exclaimed Mo Nien with wide eyes. Long Chen's heart also shook. This woman had to be Zi Yen. That kind of mannerism was something only she possessed. But this time, she had taken off her veil. Suddenly, her lithe fingers gently plucked the zither's strings. A sound like immortal music floated out, one that penetrated deeply into the heart and cleansed the soul. Following the music, Long Chen felt as if he had forgotten all his fury. His heart became calm and peaceful, no joy or worries, no fear or anger. It was like a pair of soft hands were gently comforting his heart. It made him forget all his vexations, allowing his soul to reach a state of true calm. After an unknown amount of time, the image faded. The two of them were still standing there, lost in some mysterious realm. Ah, this Zi Yen really is a goddess-like woman. After listening to this song, I feel like my mental realm has advanced a great deal. Long Chen, you really have some good luck, said Mo Nien enviously. What good luck? Don't you understand what she's saying? She's already left Qing Prefecture. From now on, we'll truly be people in two different worlds, said Long Chen. Hee, don't put this away so fast. Good things should be shared. Let me copy it. Wait, damn it, it's not possible to copy it. Mo Nien had taken out a photographic jade and wanted to copy it. But he found that the photographic jade Ziyen had left was something he had never seen before, and he couldn't copy it. That made him incredibly vexed. This song was extremely beneficial to a person's soul. Occasionally listening to it could allow a person's realm to rapidly advance. It was practically a divine song. But no matter how thick Mo Nien's face was, of course he wouldn't fight with Long Chen over it. That was a gift someone else had given him. He could only watch as Long Chen put it away. Long Chen felt a trace of gratitude towards Ziyen. This photographic jade wasn't very useful to him, as he walked a different path from other people. But Meng Qi, Chu Yao, and the members of the Dragonblood Legion could all use this song. By listening to this song, their mental realms would surpass their cultivation bases. 7 days later, a piece of news rocked the Qing prefecture. Yin Wushang's true body had arrived. Obviously, Yin Wushang was planning on having a battle with Long Chen. He wanted to kill him as revenge for his clone. Qing prefecture was in an incredibly tense state. That heavy atmosphere made it hard for people to breathe. Mo sent orders for Mo Nien and Long Chen to not go outside. At the same time, the Mo family's secluded experts also came out. This was the first time the Mo family entered a true battle state. All their experts were gathered, waiting. What startled Long Chen was that the Mo family actually had over 400 Xiantian experts. That was an extremely powerful lineup. The curtains to an immense battle were about to be raised. Long Chen could sense just how warlike the members of the Mo family were. Even their blood was beginning to heat up. Old Ghost Mo, let's have a decisive battle in front of Scorched Earth Forest. Get the fuck out there. Suddenly, a shout resounded throughout all of Qingzhou City. Chapter 595. Chapter 595 Gambler. That furious shout caused countless powers within Qingzhou City to shudder. Was an immense battle finally about to start? Although there were countless powers within Qing Prefecture and there was an unending struggle, it was unknown just how many years had passed since such a large battle had been held. You shameful thing, even you dare be so arrogant? Then let this old man see just who has such guts. Mo sneered, his voice shaking the heavens, incredibly domineering. With a wave of his hand, the Mo family's experts all strode out of Mo Gate. A battle on this scale could not be held in the city. That would completely destroy all of Qingzhou City and implicate countless innocents. Long Chen and Mo Nien followed behind Mo. Mo now seemed like a divine weapon that had finally been unsheathed, his sharpness shaking the world. Mo Yunshan and the others were following him. Close to 500 Xiantian experts were releasing a soaring battle intent. They were all experts amongst experts. These people were only the Mo family's experts. Mu Shui had originally been planning on joining, but she had been stopped by Long Chen. Mu Shui's cultivation base wasn't bad, but she hadn't experienced true slaughter. She wasn't suited to such a battle. This battle was something only those on the Xiantian level had the qualifications to participate in. So the majority of the Mo family's disciples were all left within Mo Gate. Seeing these people go straight out of the city's hidden spectators were all shocked. So Mo was actually really alive this entire time. Heavens, that's an expert that reached the peak of sea expansion a millennia ago. This time there really will be a show to watch, exclaimed one of them. In the past few centuries, Mo had never revealed himself outside Mo Gate. Everything in Mo Gate had been handed over to Mo Yunshan to handle. Later, people had assumed he was no longer present. There were also people who had intentionally fanned the flames to say that he was gone. That had brought on a huge controversy. But Mo Gate had always remained silent in regards to those rumors, and no one was aware of what was true and what was false. Even without Mo present, Mo Gate had still been a supreme existence above the other sects. Now that he had appeared, it alarmed everyone. This time there really would be an unprecedented battle. Mo was leading people and he wasn't going fast. The spectators all hid and watched. Long Chen, a great battle's about to start. Aren't you excited? Mo Nien suddenly laughed. He was incomparably excited, and he felt like his blood was boiling. I don't feel anything. Long Chen shook his head. What? Could it be you're afraid? Asked Nain. No. The main thing is that I've experienced too many battles like this. Ever since I started rising in Phoenix Cry, I killed out my own path. Despite knowing a glorious battle is about to start, even though I want to get excited, regretfully, I just can't, said Long Chen helplessly. Haha, this act of yours gets full points. Nian laughed disdainfully. Long Chen bitterly smiled. He himself felt that he was acting less and less like a youngster. Back when he had left on his journey toward the Xiantian monastery all alone, he had been filled with yearning and anticipation toward the outside world. However, once he left Phoenix Cry, he entered an even bloodier world. In truth, he was a bit tired of these struggles. But this was the reality. If he didn't fight, he would die. If he didn't kill, others would kill him. There was nothing else to do. Long Chen, young people should be full of energy. What is known as life and death is just a game full of gambles. Your life and what you obtain in your life are your gambling chips. Each one of us cultivators is a gambler. We are gambling against the heavens. We are gambling against this chaotic world. As the stakes get higher as they win more chips, there are many people who start to get afraid. There is a phrase that is circulated throughout the secular world. A barefoot person is not afraid of fighting someone with shoes. In truth, cultivation is the same. We have to remember, we are always barefoot gamblers. Don't think that just because you've won a lot of chips that you have so much capital and can retreat. The rules of the heavens are just like that. Once you start gambling, you can't leave, of course. The exception is if you manage to win the entire world, becoming this world's master. Otherwise, once you decide to stop betting, the heavens will seize every chip in your hands as well as your life, said Mo. Long Chen's heart shook. Mo Yi's thoughts were very similar to his own. This was precisely a chaotic world. He was like a gambler, and through constant work, he obtained more chips to make himself stronger. But as he got stronger, his opponents also got stronger. The bets always became bigger, and the gambling grew fiercer and fiercer. Once you sat down at this gambling table, you couldn't leave. Either you won the entire world, or you lost everything you had. Of course, this was much crueler than gambling with just chips. That was because what you were gambling with were the things most precious to you. For example, your family, your lover, your friends. Each time you lost some of them. Most hateful of all, even if you could flip the tables and win back your chips, you wouldn't necessarily be able to win back the chips you had originally lost. Long Chen thought of those core disciples from the 108th monastery that had died. They had fought shoulder to shoulder with him, but in the Jiuli's secret realm, they had died to Yin Wushuang's sinister schemes. He had then killed Yin Wushuang and Han Tianyu. In fact, he had undergone a slaughter of both the righteous and corrupt paths. According to this gambling theory, he had already won. He had won resources, he had won wealth, and he had also won some new friends. But those fallen brothers were forever gone. Each time Long Chen recalled the scene of Lu Fanger's death, he was filled with indescribable pain. What he had felt for Lu Fanger had not been a romantic love. And Lu Fanger had always been joking when she said she was an extra for when he married Meng Qi, a so-called buy one get one free. Although it was just a joke that they were together, Long Chen was truly unable to accept the fact that she had died just like that. He had killed Feng Shaozi. He had destroyed the Wind Spirit Pavilion. But so what? Would that revive Lu Fanger? What was lost was lost. Even if you won back your chips, they wouldn't be your original chips. Those would be forever lost. The higher your accomplishments become, the more chips you'll have. Then, because you worry about how much you've gained, you'll lose the courage to gamble anymore. As a result, you'll slowly find your chips slipping out of your grasp while you stay hesitant on what to do. So if you want to win more, you have to maintain the heart of a barefoot gambler. You have to be able to take out your chips to gamble, because only this attitude will allow you to keep more chips. Moe looked at Mo Nian. Grandfather, I understand, said Mo Nian. Your life is your own. You can bet it as you want to. The heavenly Daos are emotionless. There are countless Daos. There are many types of gambles, many types of games. You shouldn't care whether or not you will be the final winner or loser. What you should cherish are the emotions that you feel while you gamble. Hehe, that's what's truly stimulating. Moe laughed and seemed as if he had become many years younger. His eyes shone like an obsessive gambler who had held back for millennia and finally had a chance to gamble. 10 years I wandered with my bow, my arrows causing heaven and earth to shake. The 9 heavens, 10 lands, and all the universe will revolve around me. Only I, Mo Nyen, will rise to glory. Hehe, the battle today will mark the day that I, Mo Nyen, begin my rise. Exclaimed Mo Nyen high-spiritedly. Obviously, in this particular situation, Mo Yi's words had been exceptionally stirring to Mo Nyen. They had allowed him to clearly see his path forward. If even Mo Yi, the leader of the huge existence known as Mo Gate, could keep the mindset of a barefoot gambler when facing all predicaments, then in comparison, Mo Nyen's worries were as groundless as being worried the sky would fall. Old man, you really are wise, praised Longchen. Hehe, I'm not wise at all. Our Mo family has countless ancestral teachings, but there is one kind of teaching that is not passed down: how to keep Mo Gate alive forever. Isn't that very curious? It was our Mo Gate's ancestors that were the truly wise ones. They were the ones who said to live freely, repaying kindness and enmity. Their goal was for us to maintain our core heart. As for whether or not Mo Gate can continue surviving, it is not something up to man. It is up to destiny. Whether or not Mo Gate's inheritance is cut off has nothing to do with us. What we need to do is to continue passing on the essence of the Mo family to our descendants. In the future, even if the Mo family is eradicated, we will still have the face to see our ancestors. But if we were to have our essence destroyed by this chaotic world in order to maintain our inheritance, then there would be no need for Mo Gate to exist. We'd have no way to face our ancestors. So, Mo Nyen, remember, maintaining the inheritance of Mo Gate isn't important. What's important is that even if you have only one breath left to you, you still have to use that breath to show your spine, said Moe. Moe had only just finished speaking when a large mass of people appeared ahead. They had arrived at the Scorched Earth Forest. The Scorched Earth Forest was south of Qingzhou City. According to legend, a fire attribute divine beast had undergone nirvanic rebirth here in the immortal era, causing all the ground here to be scorched black. But what was inconceivable was that this scorched ground possessed limitless life energy and had given birth to a flourishing forest. In front of the forest was an open space. Since ancient times, this area had been a sacred battleground for decisive battles near Qingzhou City. Over countless years, many experts and powers would choose to have their decisive battles here, battles that determined life or death. Today, there were thousands of experts present. They were standing there, icily looking at Mo Yi's group. Longchen examined them and his heart sank. There were over 2,000 Xiantian experts, several times what Mo Gate had. Of those experts, there were over 200 that were wearing violet robes, the Yin character embroidered on their chest. As for the remaining ones, their robes had the Lin character on them. There were 2 elders with extremely powerful auras at the front, and at the same time, Longchen noticed another familiar person, Yin Wushang. Yin Wushang's expression was exceedingly gloomy, killing intent surging in his eyes. He stood at the front, glaring at Longchen with hatred. Moe, you were actually still alive? Asked one of the elders at the front. Chapter 596. Chapter 596. Killing intent soars into the sky. That elder was tall, had white hair and a pair of eagle-like eyes. His aura was like the sea, giving people a feeling of boundless pressure. Seeing how icily this elder glared at Moe and his tone, it seemed he was acquainted with him. Moe narrowed his eyes upon seeing this elder. Lin Qingdian, it really is a bit surprising that you're alive. Ah, that's right, with the Lin family acting as other people's dogs, The master will definitely pity the dog when it's injured and heal it. Looks like your master's treatment of you really is not bad. Congratulations on having such a master. Long Chen's heart shook. As expected, these two knew each other, and it seemed they had once exchanged blows. It should have been Moe who had been stronger though and heavily injured him. Now, for this Lin Qingdian to have come back, he was definitely prepared. Lin Qingdian sneered, Moe, last time, all you managed to do was take advantage of an opening to just barely win. But this time, I've come to take your head. And not only will I take your head, but I'll also eradicate your Mo family. This world will no longer have an existence known as the Mo family. Ah, good, how courageous. You really have improved. If you want to destroy my Mo family, you can come to try at any time. Of course, the precondition is that you have enough strength to do so, said Mo. He then turned to the other elder standing beside Lin Qingdian. What? Does your Yin family also want to join in? This elder was bald. He rubbed his shiny head lightly. It seemed as if the reason his head was so shiny was because he was in the habit of rubbing it like that. Hee, our Yin family doesn't care the slightest bit about your Mo family. However, there's one thing your Mo family has done that is overboard, said the bald elder. Oh. That brute Long Chen obtained some kind of poisonous soil from somewhere, and by using the Huayan auction house, he intentionally entrapped my Yin family. As a result, the bald elder suddenly waved his hand, and a pile of rotting wood appeared out of his spatial ring. As a result, my Yin family's meridian opening spirit cliff trees were all poisoned to death, with not one of them surviving. Long Chen and my Yin family can no longer live under the same sky. If your Mo family dares harbor this criminal, then it seems we really do have to join in. Seeing this withered wood, even Moe was shocked. The small branches had already rotted, and even the roots had decayed. All that remained was the main trunk. If this elder hadn't said this was a tree, no one would have been able to tell. They would have just assumed it to be a rotting log. Did you get so used to wiping your head that you not only managed to make your head so shiny, but you also wiped away your brains? Did you personally see me give that divine soil to the auction house? Do you have any proof? How could a big figure like you open his mouth and talk crap like this? Is this the style of you ancient families? Said Long Chen disdainfully. When it came to lying, perhaps there would only be a few people that could compare to Long Chen. It had clearly been done by him, but he could still righteously curse a person for accusing him. Long Chen trusted Zheng Wenlong. He definitely wouldn't sell him out. The Yin family was definitely just making up an excuse. The death of all their trees was something completely within his expectations. No one was more aware than him about how terrifying that black soil was. At the same time, Long Chen now saw through some clues to see just what the Yin family was planning. Now that all their trees had died, they had lost the majority of their income. They had wanted to get compensation from the Huayan auction house, but they had stood on the side of reason and weren't afraid of them at all. It was impossible for them to get any benefits from the Huayan auction house. But no matter how strong a power was, without any income, they would decline. How were the experts of the Yin family supposed to cultivate without any resources? Although this was the cultivation world, not the secular world, it was still impossible to survive without money. The Mo family was extremely powerful in Qing Prefecture. They controlled a great deal of this prefecture's resources. The Yin family's target was those resources. If they worked together with Lin Qingdian to destroy the Mo family, they would take over the Mo family's businesses. Although that wouldn't be as easy as when they had made money from selling meridian opening spirit cliff fruit, and it would also be less in profit, it was better than nothing. Falsely accusing Long Chen of having sold the divine soil was just an excuse. That was because just the enmity between Long Chen and Yin Wushang was not enough for them to join in on such a huge battle. So they had to slander Long Chen. What they didn't know was that their slander was not wrong in the slightest, because this matter really had been done by him. Quibbling has no use. We already have absolute proof it was you. Severing a person's livelihood is like killing their parents. Moe, for you to protect Long Chen like this, You are clearly declaring war against my Yin family. What, do you think my Yin family was soft persimmon? Roared the bald elder. Following his roar, his aura also erupted, causing the void to shake and rumble. Long Chen was shocked. This elder was actually a true sea expansion expert. The Yin family truly had a powerful foundation. Haha, interesting, really interesting. Your Lin family is after my Mo family's top treasure, while your Yin family wants my Mo family's businesses. Why don't you just say it openly? There's no need to beat around the bush, Aoi laughed, his voice full of disdain. He truly was worthy of being an old monster that had lived for so many years. In just a moment he saw through their intentions and why they had managed to cooperate. Well, do you want a battle between the peak fighters, or a chaotic battle? It's up to you. My Mo family's men will accept either way, said Moe. Seeing that Moe still had this much confidence despite facing him and the bald elder, Lin Qingdian couldn't help feeling less assured. He was just about to ask what the bald elder wanted to do when Yin Wushang suddenly walked out. Long Chen, do you dare battle me? Yin Wushang's aura exploded and locked down Long Chen, icy killing intent filling his eyes. It could be said that Yin Wushang's hatred could not be washed away even with all the water in the world. Not only had his hatred seeped into his bones, but even into his soul. Outside the scorched earth forest, on the distant mountains, countless experts had long since found the high ground to watch from. Their photographic jades had long since been prepared. These experts were all focused on the battlefield. Seeing Yin Wushang walk out, they smiled. Yin Wushang had come for revenge. The death of his clone was a devastating blow to the true body. Not only had it severed his path of advancing to a rank 2 celestial, but it had also left a deep stain on his soul. If he didn't personally kill Long Chen, that stain could never be washed away. Then Yin Wushang's cultivation path would very likely halt at his current level. Either he had to maintain his current cultivation base, or he had to risk being invaded by his heart devil when he attacked the Xiantian realm, and then he would very likely die. Celestials might be the favorites of heaven and earth, but the existence known as a heart devil was something outside forces were unable to remove. You had to rely on yourself. It could be said that if Yin Wushang wanted to continue cultivating, he had to kill Long Chen. This was his only chance. And he had to do it personally. For a loser to ask me like this, it really is embarrassing. Long Chen shrugged helplessly as if he couldn't bear seeing Yin Wushang embarrass himself again. This reply caused countless people to almost laugh. How would Yin Wushang receive such a sharp reply? As expected, Yin Wushang turned ashen. But he then icily said, Long Chen, I trust that you'll receive this challenge. Your trust is useless. The main point is, why would I receive your challenge? You are no longer a match for me. The first time, you were at your current realm when you sent your clone chasing after me. But if it hadn't been for Yin Qing, you would have died. The second time, you were still in the same realm, while I had advanced to Meridian Opening. Your clone was killed by me. Now it's the third time, and you're still in the same realm, once more challenging me. Are you trying to get me to kill your true body? Asked Long Chen. Yin Wushang's fists creaked and his body quivered. Long Chen was too arrogant. Long Chen, I've already said that you'll definitely accept this challenge. Just like last time, you'll definitely accept, said Yin Wushang. Long Chen's expression suddenly changed as he thought of Mu Shui. A bad feeling caused his heart to clench. Let me show you something. Yin Wushang suddenly threw out a saber that was still in its scabbard. A phoenix had been carved into the scabbard, one that seemed to be in the midst of letting out a bird cry. Long Chen's eyes turned red, and killing intent erupted from him. He roared, "Bastard, where is my father?" This saber was his father's. Long Tianxiao's old saber had been broken by the white-robed man back in the battle of the capital. Later, Long Tianxiao had gone to ask a craftsman to make him a new, identical saber. This carving on it was the mark of Phoenix Cry. Long Chen really hadn't expected Yin Wushang to be this contemptible as to kidnap his father. It had to be known that the cultivation world struggles were not permitted to interfere with the matters of the secular world. This was an iron law of the cultivation world. But seeing this saber, as well as Yin Wushang's confident gaze, Long Chen's entire body trembled as boundless killing intent filled his heart. "HM, what are you talking about? I just wanted to show this random saber and have you appraise it. How unexpected for you to get so excited over just some saber. I only just obtained it a while ago. Because its quality is so low, it's basically garbage and I might feel like destroying it at any moment." Sorry for getting sidetracked. Let's talk about our battle instead. Let me say it again, do you dare battle me? Yin Wushang felt incredibly pleased upon seeing Long Chen's current state. "All right, I'll battle you." Long Chen tightly clenched his father's saber. Chapter 597. Chapter 597. Divine Ring shakes the firmament. "You can't, Long Chen. That's his true body. The clone you killed before only had 50% of his strength." Mo Nian knew that the difference between a true body and a clone was immense. On the surface, it might seem like a clone possessed 50% of the strength of the true body, and so the true body's combat abilities would only be double of it. But in reality, the true body would be able to fight 10 such clones. That was because each increase in strength led to immense changes in combat strength. Such a thing could not be calculated by numbers, which was why Mo Nian hastily tried to talk him out of it. "Long Chen, did he kidnap your family?" guessed Mo. Long Chen didn't reply. Putting away his father's saber, he walked out toward Yin Wushang. "Do you know, you really shouldn't have infuriated me. Because you did, I'll do something frightening." "Haha, frightening? Just how frightening? You're just a damnable ant that should have already died. You killed my clone, so today, you'll definitely die. Hee, and I'm not afraid to tell you that not only is your father in my hands, but even your mother. And of course, that little girl is also present. You know, your little sister really is not bad. She'll definitely grow up into quite the beauty. Hee, once you die, I'll help you to accompany her, letting her be my slave. I'll take your place to dash." Suddenly, Long Chen's hand viciously slapped across Yin Wushang's face. That terrifying strength practically caused space to explode. Originally, Yin Wushang had just been quietly communicating with Long Chen, and in doing so, he had walked closer so that their words could be more private. As a result, this slap across his face was truly quick. No one had expected Long Chen to suddenly attack and send Yin Wushang flying. He had already leaped after him as well. "Die!" A blood-red saber appeared in Long Chen's hand. A blood-colored chi wave filled the sky, and endless killing intent boiled. His saber came slashing down on Yin Wushang. Cry of the heavenly Daos. Heaven and earth shook as countless runes appeared in the air around Yin Wushang, forming a sea-like defense. Break! Yin Wushang's sword slashed out, and the runes in the air actually gathered onto the sword. Boom! That runic sword smashed apart Long Chen's saber image, and without pausing, it continued toward Long Chen. Long Chen hastily raised his saber to block, but his body shook intensely and the ground beneath his feet shattered. He was sent flying straight back. His true body is so much stronger than his clone. Mo Nian was shocked by this power. Yin Wushang was surrounded by runes as he stood there with his sword in his hand. He appeared like an emperor looking down on others, icily arrogant. His clone's heavenly Dao runes had only been able to fill an area of a mile around him, but his true body's runes had increased this range by 10 times. Furthermore, those runes were constantly revolving around his body as if they were alive, constantly absorbing the energy of heaven and earth for him. This Yin Wushang really is terrifying. Although I'm also a celestial, I probably wouldn't be able to last more than 100 exchanges with him, said Lu Zongying. Although such words were a bit embarrassing to say, it was the truth. Yin Wushang's true body was too strong, so strong that it caused a person to despair. This grand manifestation was giving Yin Wushang endless energy. Other than a true sea expansion expert, no one would be able to challenge him. "Grandfather, maybe we should dash," said Mo Nian. "Divine Ring." Suddenly, a furious roar rang out through the sky. A powerful aura surged into the sky, and a pillar of light blew apart the black clouds from Yin Wushang's manifestation. What? Yin Wushang had brought forth heavenly fury with his manifestation, which had covered the sky with black clouds. But this pillar of light pierced through the black clouds, and the clouds were rapidly forced back. The sky now appeared extremely bizarre. Above Yin Wushang, the black clouds were still turbulently roiling. But above Longchen, it was sunny. It was like two worlds were clashing, neither capable of suppressing the other. Just what battle skill is this? It is actually able to resist the heavenly Daos. Even the manifestation of heaven's fury is being blown back. Seeing this scene, everyone was flabbergasted. This was heaven-defying. Even Moe, Lin Qingdian, and the bald elder were shocked. They had experienced many great battles. Thus, Long Chen and Yin Wushang's strength weren't anything special to them. But the two of them had brought forth world-shaking manifestations. Yin Wushang was a celestial, so for him to be able to draw out the power of heaven and earth was reasonable. But Long Chen was not a celestial. Using just his own strength, he was forcibly breaking the restrictions of heaven and earth, forcing back Yin Wushang's manifestation. Despite having lived for countless years and being extremely experienced, their hearts pounded. Just what level of strength was this? As for the bald elder, he was also incomparably shocked at first, but it was soon replaced with a smile. However, this smile was extremely sinister. Long Chen's secrets, the secrets which allowed him to be this powerful, would belong to his Yin family soon. Space was rumbling, and chi waves surged out like furious waves. What terrifying strength! The Mo family's experts were actually not able to bear their auras and all retreated. The power surging out of Long Chen shocked them and also gave them an extreme sense of danger. If they were too close, they felt like their lives could be lost at any moment. A huge divine ring had appeared in the sky. This divine ring was split into 3 colors. The middle color was yellow, and it was bordered by red and orange. The middle color was stationary, but the other 2 colors were rotating in opposite directions. Following their rotation, the world rumbled and changed color. Long Chen was standing in front of the divine ring, his clothes and black hair fluttering in the wind. With his blood-red saber in his hand and furious killing intent pouring out of him, he seemed like a berserk god of death. Die! The ground beneath Long Chen's feet erupted. He had already shot forward like a bolt of lightning. Blooddrinker released a cry as its runes lit up, and a blood-red saber image soared into the sky. This saber image was over a mile long, looking like a celestial blade that could cause even gods to shiver. It slashed down ruthlessly upon Yin Wushang. Even the void was cut apart, and an unpleasant screech was emitted. Everyone's expressions changed. That wasn't just because of this saber's power or because of its aura, but because of the will contained in this saber. It had actually absorbed all the murderous aura within heaven and earth, not leaving a single drop. This saber was influenced by Long Chen's will, and each person present felt a sense of death from it. What terrifying killing intent! Just how many people had Long Chen killed to condense such a terrifying level of killing intent? It had to be known that killing intent was something that would increase by absorbing the resentment of the person you killed. It was a kind of special aura that would condense within the bones. Once a person was infuriated, once they went berserk, that killing intent would be released. In other words, it would unleash endless resentment that would terrify most people. Seeing Long Chen's saber slashing toward him, Yin Wushang roared and the heavenly Dao runes around him suddenly compressed, forming a strange image behind his back. That was the image of a huge ancient beast. At the same time, a mark lit up on his forehead. His aura crazily grew and a terrifying pressure shot out. He slashed his sword toward Long Chen's saber. Boom! The ground exploded, the black earth rippling like it was liquid. Both sides had to hastily defend against this wave of earth. This wave contained Long Chen and Yin Wushang's power, and it had the power to shatter mountains. The Xiantian experts struck by this wave of earth were miserably blown back, shocked. Was this the strength of celestials? It was truly terrifying. Rumble! Two weapons were currently clashing, their owners icily glaring at each other. They both roared, releasing their greatest strength. A blood-colored rune appeared on Yin Wushang's forehead. He was actually igniting his ancestral blood to increase his power. The runes around him surged turbulently, and his power crashed down on Long Chen. 3-star battle armor. Long Chen cried out inside, and the Feng Fu star, Alioth star, and Life Fate star, which had been crazily circulating, suddenly paused. Light soared out of them, pouring toward the primal chaos bead in Long Chen's dantian. Boom! The ground shook intensely, and cracks covered it. They started off as small cracks, but they quickly grew to become several feet thick, revealing a bottomless abyss. What? Every person was struck dumb. Just what level of strength was this? Suddenly Yin Wushang vomited a mouthful of blood and was blown back. He then continuously coughed up more blood in the air, and even the ancestral mark on his forehead dimmed. How is that possible? The elder from the Yin family was appalled. Yin Wushang was not only a rank 1 celestial, but the hopes of the entire family had also been placed on him. They had spent over 10,000 years' worth of savings on him to make him into the greatest genius. But even now that his true body had descended, he was still unable to defeat Long Chen. That was something this bald elder was unable to accept. If this continued, it would be impossible for them to achieve their main goal, which was to have Yin Wushang kill Long Chen to maintain his pure Dao heart. That was even more important than exterminating Mo Gate. But Yin Wushang had to personally kill Long Chen. If others did it, that stain in Yin Wushang's heart would never be washed away. What? Just as everyone was still completely shocked that Long Chen was able to force back Yin Wushang, startled cries rang out. At some unknown point, Long Chen had appeared like a phantom in front of Yin Wushang, his saber mercilessly slashing down. Blood splashed and the entire world turned still. Chapter 598. Chapter 598 Great Battle begins. A blood-colored ray pierced through the void, slicing Yin Wushang's body in two. His blood filled the air, and time seemed to slow down. Whether it was the experts from the Mo family, the Lin family, the Yin family, or even those distant spectators, everyone was dumbfounded. They felt as if their hearts were no longer beating, as this scene was too shocking. The image of Yin Wushang's body slowly splitting in two in midair was deeply imprinted in their minds. He was killed just like that? No one could believe it. From the start of the battle, not even an incense stick's worth of time had passed. His true body had been killed just like that? Long Chen's previous battle with Yin Wushang had already shaken all of Qing Prefecture, and countless experts had gathered here and investigated what had happened from the start. Within the secret realm, Yin Wushang had framed Long Chen, and later it was Long Chen who had managed to forcibly reverse the scales. That had brought on the ire of the Yin family. The small details of what the Yin family had done in retaliation had all been found out now. In Long Chen's first battle with Yin Wushang, although there was no proof, it was apparent from the words the two of them had spoken to each other that Long Chen had been much weaker than Yin Wushang. It was only by taking advantage of his carelessness that Long Chen had managed to injure him and flee. Less than a month after that first battle, they'd had an even more shocking fight. In the end, Long Chen had managed to kill Yin Wushang's clone. Although he had managed to kill the clone, everyone could tell that Long Chen had used his full strength to just barely bring about that result. As for this third battle, Yin Wushang's true body had come. Originally, they had all thought that Long Chen would find it difficult to escape from Yin Wushang's clutches. But now, that true body had lasted less than an incense stick's worth of time before being defeated. No one doubted how powerful Yin Wushang was. The strength he had released caused all those Xiantian experts to be terrified. For him to be defeated so quickly, the only thing that could be said was that Long Chen was too abnormal. Just what kind of growth rate was this? Thinking of how arrogantly Yin Wushang had challenged him, asking him if he dared to battle him, it was completely laughable and practically an insult to himself. Heavenly Dao Riko Dash, countless runes wrapped around Yin Wushang, and the two parts of him instantly merged back. But in that instant, Long Chen's saber slashed out 4 consecutive times, severing all his limbs. He then reached out his hand to grab his throat. He couldn't kill him right now. He had to use Yin Wushang as a hostage to find out the location of his parents. Fuck off. Suddenly, a suffocating force attacked him, causing Long Chen's scalp to turn numb. A sensation of death filled him, and he hastily retreated. A ray of light fell right beside Long Chen, cutting a long gorge in the ground. That gorge was only the width of a palm, but it was so deep that it was impossible to see the bottom. It was like a sharp blade had cut it. If Long Chen hadn't retreated so quickly, this ray of light would have slashed down on him. Even with his physical body, he still would have been cut in two. The person who had attacked was the bald elder from the Yin family. Runes covered his hands, making his hands as sharp as blades. "You shameless old bastard!" A furious roar rang out as Emi suddenly charged out like a phantom, his fist instantly reaching the bald man. Moe was infuriated. He hadn't expected this baldy to be so shameless, ignoring his status as a sea expansion expert to sneak attack a junior. Countless runes lit up over Moe's body. He seemed like a furious battle god, his fist causing the void to rumble. "Old fellow, do you really think I'm afraid of you?" sneered the bald elder. Bang! Space violently shook, and it was like the entire world was being fried. Some people directly vomited blood from the spatial vibrations. Scram! Moe roared, and the bald elder's expression suddenly changed. He felt a mountain-toppling force attack him, and the ground beneath his feet exploded as he was knocked into the air. A pair of huge, black wings suddenly appeared on Moe's back, looking just like real wings. Those wings were actually created by countless black runes. As soon as they appeared, Moe's aura erupted. Runic wings were a specific mark of the sea expansion realm. Once you entered the sea expansion realm, you could nourish your own core runes. Such runes could be transmitted to your descendants through your bloodline, so it was another kind of bloodline energy and an exceptionally strong one. Once sea expansion experts called out their runic wings, they could release their greatest strength, drawing on the power of heaven and earth. Although the Xiantian realm was also said to be capable of connecting with the power of heaven and earth, there was a qualitative difference between the two. Xiantian experts were amateurs at using the energy of heaven and earth, while sea expansion experts were masters. It could be said that the Xiantian realm was just a starting point for a person to adapt to heaven and earth's energy. But the sea expansion realm was the point at which a person could use that energy as they pleased. The wings behind Moe's body shook, and he was like a bolt of black lightning as he flew into the air, once more punching that elder. The bald elder's expression changed, and he furiously roared, a pair of wings also appearing on his back as he punched out. Boom! The void erupted as a terrifying force spread in all directions, a blinding light dazzling people's eyes. A terrifying pressure spread and the experts on the ground were all blown away by terrifying astral winds. Long Chen did his best to resist, but he was still blown back several miles before stabilizing. This is the power of the sea expansion realm? Truly powerful. Long Chen was amazed. This was his first time truly seeing sea expansion experts fighting. The strength contained in just the wave of their hands could destroy mountains. That exchange had occurred in the air just now. If it had occurred on the ground, then perhaps everyone would have been buried by the ground from the aftershock. Moe, curb your arrogance. Seeing that the bald elder was repeatedly forced back by Moe's ferocious attacks, Lin Qingdian couldn't help being horrified. Moe was much more terrifying than in his youth, making Lin Qingdian decide to also join the battle. A group of shameless things, trash that only knows how to bully the weak. Do you think that I, Moe, am afraid of you? Moe's furious roar shook the heavens, and his white hair danced in the air. Light shone from his eyes as his aura continued to climb, battle intent soaring off him. How was he an old man? He seemed more like a bloodthirsty battle god that had finally been revived. Boom! Even fighting 1 against 2, Mo Yi's punch managed to send the 2 of them flying. The void rumbled intensely, and runes filled the air. It was incredibly horrifying. When sea expansion experts released their full power, that power could crush mountains and overturn seas. The 3 of them continued to fly higher into the sky, creating more distance from the ground. Obviously, both sides were worried that their aftershocks could kill their own people. The 3 of them flew high into the sky, appearing like 3 black dots continuously colliding. Although they were now incredibly far up, each time they collided, a terrifying pressure would crash onto the ground, making it hard for the people to breathe. This was the gap between realms. Sea expansion experts had already completely comprehended how to use natural energy. With their core runes absorbing that energy to use as their own, that power was practically apocalyptic. That was also why Meridian Opening Celestials could dominate the Xiantian realm but were unable to jump across the chasm known as the Sea Expansion Realm. Just like Celestials, Sea Expansion experts could also control heaven and earth's energy. Although it wouldn't be as monstrous as the cry of the heavenly Daos, a rank 1 Celestial was unable to suppress the power of a Sea Expansion expert's core runes. If you were to compare a Celestial to a dagger, then a Sea Expansion expert could be likened to a forest. Although the dagger was sharp, its range was too short. A single danger could not possibly cut down a huge forest in a short amount of time. But a forest's trees could gather together, using quantity to suppress quality, crushing that dagger. Once those 3 were far away from the rest of them, Mo Yunshan waved his hand. Kill them all. The Mo family's experts all released their auras. Countless pillars of light soared into the sky, and bows appeared in their hands. Attack! Kill these degenerates from the Mo family. The experts from the other side also roared furiously, charging forward. Killing intent soared into the sky. Arrows exploded, weapons clashed, and bloodthirsty roars rang out. This was a truly world-shaking battle. All these Xiantian experts had released their full strength, doing their best to slaughter their enemies. Dust filled the air, and a rain of blood dyed the ground red. All of you can die. Arrows rend the 9 heavens. Mo Nian suddenly summoned the cry of the heavenly Daos, causing heaven and earth to change color. Thousands of arrows poured out of his bow. Those were not true arrows but created from spiritual energy. This was one of the Mo family's strongest battle skills. Mo Yi had only taught it to Mo Nian after he had advanced to Meridian Opening and became a celestial. These arrows flew into the midst of his enemies. They raised their weapons to defend, but they were horrified to see that each arrow had the same strength as a full-strength attack from a Xiantian expert. With this many arrows concentrated together, there was simply no way to block. Dozens of Xiantian experts were all turned into a bloody mist. Haha, a nice job, son. Mo Yunshan was filled with delight. Mo Nian had finally begun to reveal his domineering side. All half-step Sea Expansion experts, focus your attacks on Mo Nian and Long Chen. The others dash. This person only managed to get half his orders out before a spear smashed toward him. He hastily tried to defend, but as a result, the spear smashed apart his weapon along with the upper half of his body. What? There's another celestial? The Lin family panicked as they hadn't expected the Mo family to actually have another terrifying celestial. That person was Lu Zhongyi. Heavenly Dao runes filled the air around her, and wherever her spear struck, no one was able to block it. She was like a fierce tigress hunting them down one by one. Within this chaotic battle, Long Chen shot straight for Yin Wushang. Bastard, release my family. Chapter 599. Chapter 599 Continuous Self-Mutilation. With Long Chen charging straight at Yin Wushang, a dozen of the Yin family's Xiantian experts immediately appeared in front of him. Yin Wushang had only just used his heavenly Dao runes to paste his limbs back onto his body. No matter how heaven-defying a celestial was, It would take them a certain amount of time to fully heal from such an injury. Die! Long Chen seemed like a furious lion, his saber shining with blood-red runes as he killed his way through them. His saber cut through those people's weapons as easily as cutting through corn. The dozen of them were instantly blown into a bloody mist. When that blood dyed his saber, Blood Drinker let out a loud cry as if its spirit was awakening. Long Chen sensed a powerful thirst of blood from it. But right now, he had no time to sense the change in Blood Drinker. He was focused completely on catching Yin Wushang. Only once he caught him could he keep his parents alive. Protect the junior master. The Yin family's experts were all startled by how terrifying Long Chen was, and they all gathered to attack him. They refused to allow him to get near Yin Wushang. Those who block me will die. Long Chen's eyes were scarlet, and his bloodthirsty saber swept through those in front of him. Blood and flesh flew everywhere. Long Chen was not paying attention, but while he killed those Xiantian experts, Blood Drinker was undergoing a transformation. Energy not visible to the naked eye was being drawn out of the blood and absorbed by it. As it absorbed that energy, its blood-red color became even more brilliant. The saber in his hand is strange. Don't take it head dash. A person was about to warn everyone not to block his saber head-on when he was directly cut in two by Long Chen's saber. Blood Drinker's color was becoming brighter and brighter, and it was so sharp that it cut through their weapons like they were just mud. Xiantian weapons were no stronger than paper in front of it. In just a few breaths' time, over 50 of the Yin family's experts were killed by Long Chen. They were not able to stop him at all. All of you get out of my way. Long Chen again. Yin Wushang suddenly shouted. He had already recovered, and the sword in his hand let out a loud cry as it slashed toward Long Chen. Bang! Heaven and earth trembled intensely as Long Chen's saber met Yin Wushang's sword. What? All the Yin family's experts' expressions changed. They were unable to believe their eyes. A large nick had been slashed into Yin Wushang's sword. But that's an enchanted weapon. How is that possible? Yin Wushang's sword was known as an enchanted weapon. These so-called enchanted items were used by sea expansion experts. They were so named due to the magical inscriptions carved onto them. Although Yin Wushang was unable to use an enchanted weapon's true strength, such weapons were still made of incredibly sturdy material. The fact that his weapon was so heavily damaged now was appalling to the Yin family. Heaven and earth are boundless. Ancestral blood ignition. Yin Wushang instantly aged a great deal, his skin becoming like old tree bark. He seemed like he had immediately become a 60-year-old senior. The power of his blood qi rapidly declined, but at the same time his strength multiplied explosively. All his energy poured into his weapon. Rumble! Heaven and earth trembled. Powerful qi waves blew back all the Yin family's experts, and they vomited blood from the force. Heavens, this Yin Wushang has really gone too far. He actually ignited his ancestral blood, ruining his bloodline energy. He's gone crazy. The distant spectators were all shocked. This was extremely harmful to himself. The instant Yin Wushang ignited his ancestral blood, Long Chen felt like a mountain had crashed down on him. He frowned and his full strength erupted. The primal chaos bead rapidly circulated. The Feng Fu, Alioth, and Life Fate Star's energy poured into it without reserve. Boom! The entire battlefield sank due to their power. Everyone was appalled. Even after Yin Wushang had used this self-mutilating technique, he was still sent flying by Long Chen. Impossible, absolutely impossible. Yin Wushang was vomiting blood, but he still roared, unable to accept this reality. Protect the dash. The Yin family's experts hastily tried to move forward, but Long Chen didn't even give them a chance to speak. His saber slashed out in all directions. Dozens of the Yin family's experts didn't even have time to block with their weapons before being killed by Long Chen. 3 stars revolved in Long Chen's eyes, and the 3-colored divine ring behind him was constantly revolving. He seemed like a devil king who had descended upon the world to slaughter, filled with an imposingness that said he would kill whoever stood in front of him. This scene caused the remaining experts from the Yin family to tremble. These elite Xiantian experts were cut down like cabbages in front of Long Chen. He killed them with a wave of his hand, as easily as slaughtering pigs. Only now did Yin Wushang recover from his shock. But then seeing this scene in front of him, he once more descended into madness. Seeing Long Chen was completely unrivaled, arrogantly looking down on all, seeming like he could slaughter even gods, Yin Wushang roared. "I'm the unrivaled one. No one can surpass me, Yin Wushang." A crazy expression appeared on Yin Wushang's face, and he took out a blood-colored medicinal pill. "Junior Master, don't." One Yin family's expert let out horrified cries. Had their junior master gone crazy? Boom! That man had tried to stop Yin Wushang, but he had been too late. Yin Wushang had already swallowed the pill. A violent aura erupted from him, and the Yin family's experts who were too close were directly blown to bits by his aura. What? That seems to be the soul-devouring blood explosion pill. Yin Wushang has definitely gone crazy. This pill can let Yin Wushang's strength multiply for a short time. But forcibly overdrawing his strength like this is consuming his life energy. Correct. Igniting his ancestral blood wasn't too bad. As a celestial, he would most likely be able to cultivate his own bloodline energy. It would just require wasting a certain amount of time. But now that he has swallowed the soul-devouring blood explosion pill, his soul energy, physical energy, and bloodline energy will drop forever. Even if he kills Long Chen, Yin Wushang will also be probably crippled. The distant spectators were all prestigious people. Quite a few of them were old fellows that were extremely experienced. They couldn't help but shake their heads at Yin Wushang's actions. He really had gone crazy. After swallowing the soul-devouring blood explosion pill, Yin Wushang became like a mad lion, raising his head and roaring. The space around him twisted as if he was burning the entire world, and his aura was terrifying to the peak. Long Chen. Yin Wushang's eyes seemed to spurt flames, and his killing intent locked onto Long Chen. Long Chen killed the last person in front of him. He then rested Blood Drinker on his shoulder, icily looking at Yin Wushang. "You really are an idiot. I, Long Chen, never provoked you. It was you who forced me to this point step by step. Today, you even shamelessly kidnapped my family in the secular world. Do you know? You've really angered me," said Long Chen. "Angered you? What qualifications do you have to be angry? You are just an ant. You should never have resisted. Resisting is your wrong. Resisting means you should die. If you hadn't resisted at the beginning and had just obediently been killed, why would I have had to kidnap Mu Shui and kill those ants? If you hadn't resisted, why would I have to waste the energy to find your parents? These are all your mistakes. Now not only will you die, but your entire family will also die. This is the price an ant needs to pay for resisting," roared Yin Wushang crazily. "You fucker!" Long Chen wasn't able to hold back any longer. His saber ferociously slashed at Yin Wushang. Such idiots could only be killed. Die, you fucking ant. Boom, 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 boom. The two of them seemed to have become madmen. There was no technique in their attacks. All they did was attack with their most vicious, full-strength blows. Saber and sword images filled the air, and killing intent soared into the sky. The ground was covered with growing cracks that spread throughout the battlefield. Even the Mo and Lin families' experts were forced to move further away. Long Chen, I'm the junior master of an ancient family, a grand celestial who can look down on everyone else. You are just an ant who crawled out of the secular world. What do you have that could possibly compete with me? I am a celestial. The entire heavens are mine. Yin Wushang became more and more furious as he fought. Just attacking was no longer able to express his anger, and he constantly roared crazily. A celestial? That's just because the dog's-hit eyes of the heavens were blind. If you weren't a celestial, if you didn't have the support of the heavenly Daos, I could kill you as easily as killing a chicken. But even if you have the support of the heavenly Daos, so what? I, Long Chen, will sooner or later cut down these blind as heavens. Boom 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 boom. Finally, Yin Wushang was no longer able to endure. Blocking one of Long Chen's attacks, he was sent flying, vomiting blood. The effect of Yin Wushang's soul-devouring blood explosion pill has reached its limit. His strength is starting to fade. He's lost. The spectators were all startled by this. Long Chen was truly heaven-defying. Even after repeatedly using self-mutilating attacks, Yin Wushang had still lost. Long Chen's aura is also starting to decline. He should have also reached his limit. It really was a fierce battle of giants. Some of the experts sighed emotionally. It had been many years since they had even heard of such people. But now, of these two peerless heavenly geniuses, one had to fall. Boom! Yin Wushang just barely blocked Long Chen's next attack. As a result, he tumbled back miserably, vomiting even more blood. Wushang, don't keep fighting out of spite. Move on to the backup plan. Suddenly, a figure appeared in the air and crushed a talisman. A pillar of light instantly enveloped Long Chen. Chapter 600. The person who had appeared out of nowhere was the Yin family's Sea Expansion Elder. The instant he crushed the talisman in his hand, a pillar of light enveloped Long Chen and he became unable to move. That pillar of light contained a bizarre spatial strength. You really are looking to die. A furious roar rang out, and an arrow pierced out of the void at the elder. This arrow seemed like a meteorite containing boundless force. The elder's expression changed, and he hastily slashed out with his sword. He managed to destroy the arrow, but he was also sent flying. Mo Yi's bow quickly shot another arrow toward Long Chen. Others might not be aware, but Mo Yi could tell this was a forceful teleportation talisman and an extremely high-grade one. Within that pillar of light, Long Chen was quickly wrapped around by spatial energy. An invisible spatial channel formed, wanting to send him away. These kinds of talismans had almost disappeared from the world. The technique to create them had already been lost. This talisman was definitely a priceless treasure the Yin family had hidden for countless years. They truly treated Long Chen as something they had to obtain. Having lost their meridian opening spirit cliff trees, they had essentially lost all their income. These trees could not be planted through their seeds. They had to be slowly grafted from roots, and the success rate was less than 1 in 10,000. With no further income, the Yin family had placed their sights on the Mo family's businesses as well as Long Chen's secrets. Originally, the plan was for Yin Wushang to personally defeat and capture Long Chen. That was the best-case scenario. But the Yin family had thought that even if they captured Long Chen, the Mo family wouldn't just watch. They would crazily attack in order to save him. So they had already prepared this teleportation talisman. Yin Wushang was actually also holding a teleportation talisman. Once he captured Long Chen, he was to immediately activate that talisman, making it so the Mo family was helpless. But the Yin family had never dreamed that Yin Wushang would actually fail to defeat Long Chen even after going all out and using self-mutilating techniques to temporarily increase his strength. If this had continued, he would have been killed. The Yin family's elder had been helpless about it. The only thing he could do was waste this incredibly precious forceful teleportation talisman on a meridian-opening rookie like Long Chen. It was precisely because Mo Yi saw through this that he was incomparably furious, wanting to shatter the teleportation with his arrow. But this teleportation talisman contained boundless spatial strength, and when his arrow pierced through the light, it merely caused the talisman to tremble for a moment. Space twisted, and the light faded along with Long Chen. The Mo family's experts' hearts sank. Long Chen, just wait. I'll definitely tear you apart piece by piece. Yin Wushang also crushed an ancient talisman, disappearing as well. Whether it was the experts from the Mo family or those distant spectators, everyone was shocked. Long Chen was doomed. That forceful teleportation talisman had definitely brought him to the ancestral land of the Yin family. Let alone Long Chen, even Mo Yi would be like a chicken in a cage once they activated their grand formation. Yin Wushang's twisted expression as he teleported away gave all of them a chill. Perhaps even death would be an extremely luxurious thing to Long Chen now. I'll kill all of you bastards. Seeing Long Chen be forcibly taken away, and thinking of Long Chen's miserable fate upon being sent into the hands of the Yin family, Emo Nien immediately went crazy. He no longer held back in the slightest. The runes around him went berserk, his eyes were scarlet and his killing intent filled the air. A sky full of arrows crazily shot down on his enemies. The Lin and Yin family's experts at the front collapsed. Emo Nien was releasing an unprecedented power. He wanted to kill all of these people and then go save Long Chen. But that was impossible. These people were experts. Seeing how terrifying Emo Nien's attacks were, after dozens of them died, they quickly entered a defensive state, managing to block his attacks. "Nina, calm down," shouted Emo Yi, grabbing Emo Nien's shoulder, stopping his furious barrage. "How am I supposed to calm down? Long Chen was sent to the Yin family. With Yin Wushang's character, he'll definitely make him live a life worse than death. You want me to calm down?" Raged Emo Nien. Pow! Emo Yi slapped Emo Nien across the face, causing him to stagger back. "How did my Emo family end up having an imbecile like you? Without thinking through everything, you want to blindly charge in? Do you think that's effective? That would just vainly waste your chance to save him. Your stupidity would not only have harmed your friend, but it would have ended up causing yourself to suffer for nothing. For now, just keep your damn mouth shut. Save your energy for when we go save Long Chen." At this point, the chaotic battle had already ended. During their clash, over 40 of the Mo family's experts had fallen. But on the other side, over 500 of their people had been killed. This was an extremely alarming casualty proportion. However, this was not favorable for the Mo family. If this continued, both sides would suffer heavy casualties. Even if the Mo family won, it would definitely be an extremely miserable battle. Furthermore, there were still 2C expansion experts on the other side. Once all their subordinates were killed, they would no longer have any misgivings. It was very likely that they would run amok and slaughter the members of the Mo family. Mo E, disband Mo Gate and hand over the Mo Mountain Seal. "I can spare your life if you do so," said Lin Qingdian. The Mo family's members were startled. They had no idea what this Mo Mountain Seal was. "You want the Mo Mountain Seal? All right, you can have it." Mo E smiled coldly and formed a hand seal in front of him. Boom! The ground suddenly shook intensely as if something was trying to dig its way out. Heavens, what is that? Suddenly, someone let out a shocked cry. Looking in the direction of Qingzhou City, everyone saw an immense object flying over. It's a whole city. Heavens, isn't that Mo Gate? That huge object was actually a huge city. From a distance, it looked just like a huge stamp seal. It was completely square at the bottom, while at the top were the buildings of Mo Gate. Thinking of how all of Mo Gate had been one immense seal, people were terrified. The huge city released a powerful pressure that caused the Lin and Yin family's experts to turn pale. This is the Mo Mountain Seal. It's also what your master wanted. Unfortunately, you didn't even know what the Mo Mountain Seal was before sending yourselves to your deaths. Truly laughable, sneered Mo. At this time, the Mo Mountain Seal had already appeared above Mo Yi's head. A cold light shone in his eyes. "I have no time to say goodbye. Just die." Countless runes lit up from the bottom of the Mo Mountain Seal, forming millions of black arrows that shot straight toward Lin Qingdian and the bald elder. "Run!" Lin Qingdian's expression completely changed, and he fled without even thinking about it. He finally realized he had been used. "Too late," sneered Mo. Countless black lights shot out like bolts of lightning, engulfing his enemies. Boom! Wherever the black lights went, miserable screams would rise and fall. Those experts were instantly killed, filling the sky with blood. Even the ground beneath them disappeared to be replaced with a bottomless abyss. 2C expansion experts and over 1,000 Xiantian experts were killed just like this in one move. The spectators all felt a chill as they looked from the Mo mountain seal in the air to the bottomless pit on the ground. The Mo family was too terrifying. Just what origin did they have to have such a terrifying treasure? They could kill sea expansion experts without wasting the slightest energy. Mo Nien was also dumbfounded. Even he hadn't known his family had been hiding such a powerful treasure. It was no wonder his grandfather was so confident. The Mo mountain seal landed on the ground, directly crushing a hole in the ground. Mo gate was on the ground level again. Everyone get in the city. We're going to the Yin family's ancestral land to save Long Chen. Moe waved his hand. Grandfather, wouldn't using transportation formations be faster? Asked Mo Nien. The Mo mountain seal was too enormous, and it didn't seem like it could travel quickly. It wasn't as if they could take their time right now. Fool, do you take the Yin family to be idiots? Before starting this battle, they definitely broke all the transportation formations already. We won't be able to repair them fast enough. Furthermore, without the Mo mountain seal, what would we do by going over there? To watch as Long Chen is killed? And then be killed with him? When can you grow a brain? The Yin family is an ancient family, and they also have powerful treasures. Without the Mo mountain seal, we would just be sending ourselves to our deaths. But there are no buts. Remember, if martial might can solve a problem, then definitely don't use smarts. But when martial might is unable to resolve things, you have to stay cool-headed. Long Chen has already entered desperate straits. If he dies, you have to be able to accept it. What you'll need to do is work hard on your cultivation to get strong enough to exterminate the Yin family as revenge for Long Chen. You can't just charge in like an idiot. At that time, you'll definitely die, and when you see Long Chen in the other world, he'll definitely curse you for being stupid. The two of you will be dead, but your enemies will still be living happily. Tell me, is that idiotic or not? After he finished scolding Mo Nien, Moe controlled the Mo mountain seal. It began flying to the west, quickly disappearing across the horizon. At this time, countless people surged out like the tide, going over to the bottomless abyss. They wanted to personally experience the terror of that attack. Chapter 601, 601. Being enveloped by that light, Long Chen felt as if he was an insect frozen in ice. No matter what he tried, he was unable to shake this strange force. This could no longer be described as just force. It was practically a kind of law, and it was impossible to break free of it with force. Space twisted, and Long Chen felt as if his whole body was about to be torn apart. When it stopped twisting, Long Chen saw he had appeared in a huge plaza. He's here. Activate the Grand Formation. We can't let him escape. A shout suddenly rang out, and the space around him raged. A barrier of light covered the entire sky, blocking any possible escape paths. Long Chen was still dizzy. After undergoing that spatial twisting, he was sluggish. When he finally clearly saw his surroundings, he found he was completely surrounded by layers of enemies. Seeing those people's robes, Long Chen's heart sank. He knew he had fallen into desperate straits. This was definitely the Yin family's ancestral land. Space twisted, and another figure appeared beside Long Chen. Without waiting for that figure to fully materialize, Long Chen's palm had already stretched out. That person was sent flying like a spinning top. Although he hadn't clearly seen his face, Long Chen recognized this aura. It was Yin Wushang. Taking advantage of when he still hadn't recovered from the teleportation, Long Chen instantly grabbed Yin Wushang's throat and placed his saber against his neck. Whether it was forceful or voluntary, such a teleportation would cause the space to twist, making a person's soul dizzy. So just like this, Yin Wushang was caught by Long Chen. With one of his hand clenching Yin Wushang's throat and the other pressing his saber next to Yin Wushang's body, Long Chen caused a burst of startled cries to rumble from the entire plaza. Bastard, you really are looking to die. Release the junior master. The Yin family's experts had long since made their preparations. Seeing Long Chen arrive, they immediately activated their grand formation, first sealing off any way for him to run. But Yin Wushang was too impatient. He should have first waited a while before coming. That way, Long Chen would already be fighting with the Yin family's experts and wouldn't have an opportunity to catch him. Long Chen, you won't be able to get away. Even after being cut by Long Chen's saber, Yin Wushang seemed to not sense any pain. He laughed sinisterly, just like a bloodthirsty madman. Due to the pill he had consumed and how he had ignited his ancestral blood, Yin Wushang had aged a great deal. He was practically a withered old man now. However, his eyes were still filled with a chilling rancor. So what if I can't get away? To be able to drag down a celestial with me in death is also worth it, sneered Long Chen. You want to kill me? Huh, it seems you don't have that ability. Yin Qing, bring out the gift I prepared for Long Chen, shouted Yin Wushang. A path opened amongst the Yin family's experts. When three figures appeared before Long Chen, he couldn't help but tremble, and killing intent filled him. There was one man, one woman, and one girl. This middle-aged man was his father, Long Tianshao, while the woman was his mother. Within his mother's embrace was a little girl who only appeared to be 2 years old. This little girl looked like a beautiful doll carved out of porcelain. But her beautiful eyes were filled with terror, and she tightly hugged her mother. Chen. Seeing Long Chen, his mother let out a choked sob. After 2 years apart, her son had grown taller, and his face had become more resolute. He had become a true man. But seeing him covered with blood and his pale face, tears streamed down her face. As for the little girl, seeing these tears, she hastily wiped them away and asked, "Mom, why are you crying? Did that evil woman hit you again?" Yin Wushang. The veins on Long Chen's forehead bulged. His saber stabbed into Yin Wushang's back over and over again, hitting bones. He wished he could tear Yin Wushang apart right now. Haha PFT. Long Chen, my gift isn't bad, right? Yin Wushang cackled madly, constantly coughing up blood. Long Chen, release my Yin family's junior master, roared Yin Qing upon seeing him torture Yin Wushang. She was standing beside his parents. Long Chen, ignore us. At this point, you have to think of a way to run and get revenge for us. Long Tianshao felt a burst of pain from his shoulder as his arm was forcibly torn off, blood dyeing his body. Tianshao. Daddy. Mrs. Long and the little girl let out startled screams. But Long Tianshao gave them a glare, not letting any more words to slip out of their mouths. Long Chen, you are our pride. There's no one in this world that can live forever. Don't do anything stupid. Once again, Long Tianshao only got half of his words out before Yin Qing tore off his other arm. Idiot, shut up. Yin Qing, you fucking bitch. If I don't tear you to pieces, then I, Long Chen, swear I'm not human. Long Chen's eyes almost popped out of his head. Seeing his father's torn-off arms made him feel like his own heart was tearing apart. Yin Qing disdainfully sneered, "You want to kill me? How about I first kill your sister instead? I want to see whether or not you'll release the junior master." No! Yin Qing forcibly took away the girl from Mrs. Long's embrace. She tried to fight, but she was pressed down by the person behind her, and in her panic, she directly fainted. Yin Qing held the girl by her throat. The girl's eyes were filled with terror, but she didn't say a word. Hee little girl, are you afraid? Yin Qing was holding her throat, but she was being very careful. She allowed her to speak, not choking her to death. I'm not afraid. Daddy said I have to be a brave person like my big brother. My big brother is a true hero. Even if you kill us, my big brother will definitely get revenge for us. Despite clearly being filled with terror, this little girl still clenched her teeth and spat out these words. Her voice was tender, but it was filled with confidence toward this big brother of hers. She wasn't aware that this big brother was standing not far from her. All she knew was that she had a big brother. She didn't even know what his name was. Release her. Long Chen's voice had become hoarse. His anger had reached his peak, but he was powerless. He was filled with pain. He knew the smart choice was to ignore his parents and sister. He was powerless to save them. The only one he might be able to save was himself. Even if he released the hostage in his hand, that wouldn't change his family's fate. Doing so would be extremely foolish. Long Chen ran countless hypothetical scenarios in his head. Even if he used up every single one of his trump cards, he still wouldn't be able to resolve his current predicament. He felt fury, he felt stifled, and he felt like he was on the verge of going crazy. No, I think I won't release her. Instead, I'll kill her first, then kill your mother, and then kill your father. Don't you think yourself to be very strong? I want to see what kind of expression will you have when the people closest to you die one by one? I'm very interested, sneered Yinqing. She suddenly increased her strength, making it so the little girl was unable to breathe. The girl instinctively tried to tear away, but she was too weak. All her struggling was to no avail. It was just a deathbed struggle. You win. Long Chen closed his eyes in pain. Blood Drinker fell to the ground. He hated himself for being powerless. He hated himself for being stupid. He was unable to just watch as his sister died right in front of him. He was unable to do that. Long Chen, how could you be so stupid? You, roared Long Tianxiao. Shut up. Yinqing furiously punched Long Tianxiao in the abdomen, causing him to vomit blood and making it so he couldn't say another word. Seeing his father's disappointed and pained gaze, Long Chen was filled with regret. Sorry, father. Your son is no hero. All he is a stupid idiot, an incompetent coward. Ha ha. Yin Wushang raised his head and laughed. Seeing that Long Chen had given up, his voice was filled with delight at getting revenge. He viciously slammed his fist into Long Chen's stomach. That immense force caused Long Chen to vomit a mouthful of blood and take several steps back. Countless runes appeared around Yin Wushang, and his wounds instantly healed. He sent a kick toward Long Chen. Long Chen, you ant, where's your resistance now? How is it? In the end, aren't you still like a dead dog in front of me? Bang! What happened to all your abilities from before? Bang! Why aren't you fighting back? Bang bang! Yin Wushang was like a madman, crazily beating Long Chen. Long Chen continuously vomited blood, but he didn't resist. Wushang, that's about enough. It's time to get down to business. We need his secrets. An ancient voice suddenly rang out in the air. I know. Don't worry, I won't beat him to death. I just want to release my resentment before the soul search. Bang! Yin Wushang punched Long Chen in the face, breaking his nose. Long Chen's vision darkened as if he had fallen into endless darkness. He could no longer feel any pain. As for the voices outside, they became more and more distant. He seemed to hear a tender voice calling Big Brother, but it wasn't clear. It was too distant. I'm going to die like this? How infuriating! Long Chen was filled with endless hate, but he was unable to release it. Hating himself didn't have any use. Are you very angry? Suddenly, a voice rang out in his mind. Yes. I'm angry enough to destroy this entire world. Long Chen couldn't be bothered to ask where this voice was coming from. Then we can make a deal. I'll lend my strength to you, allowing you to save your family, and you will owe me a favor. In the future, you will repay me with your life. Are you willing? Willing. Long Chen didn't even hesitate. You won't regret it. I won't regret it. All right then. I trust you. Release your anger as you please. A certain object in his body began to shine with a brilliant light. It was unknown how much time Yin Wushang had just spent beating him. Long Chen was lying on the ground, looking like a lump. Only now did Yin Wushang stop, suddenly taking out a sharp needle. That was something that could completely absorb a person's soul. In the future, they could go through the memories of that soul as they pleased. It was much more effective than a soul search. Die! Yin Wushang wanted to stab the needle over the space between Long Chen's eyebrows. Once this needle pierced into it, there would no longer be a Long Chen in this world. Suddenly, Long Chen, who had appeared like a corpse just now, extended a hand and caught the needle. His eyes slowly opened, and endless killing intent surfaced within his eyes. The one to die will be you. Chapter 602. Ha, will be the ones to die? What a joke. Yin Qing, kill that girl for me, said Yin Wushang. Hee alright. I also want to find out how that will feel. Yin Qing looked at the girl in her hands, just about to drop her on the ground. But her expression suddenly changed as she realized she was unable to move. It wasn't just her. Yin Wushang's expression also changed. The tens of thousands of experts from the Yin family all became shocked as they realized some kind of strange energy made it so they couldn't even blink. Long Chun slowly rose from the ground. He walked in front of Yin Qing and gently took the girl away. At this time, the girl had already fainted. Seeing a red handprint deeply imprinted on her neck, he felt a burst of pain. Long Tianxiao also had no idea what was happening. Dad, your child was unfilial to implicate you. I'll send you away right now. Long Chun placed a hand on Mrs. Long, and a gentle stream of spiritual qi woke her instantly. Mom, look after Dad and sister. I'll have little Snow bring you away. He didn't give her a chance to reply. This restrictive power had a time limit, and Long Chen had no time to explain. Summoning Little Snow and giving Long Tianxiao a healing pill, he told Little Snow, I'll send you out of here. Bring my parents to a city, and I'll quickly join up with you. A scale appeared in Long Chen's hand. It released a green light that wrapped around Little Snow and the others. The light then pierced toward the sky. This light tore straight through the grand formation, leaving behind a hole in the barrier. Little Snow and the others disappeared. Bastard die. At this moment, that mysterious energy faded and all of them immediately regained their freedom. Yin Wushang was the first to attack Long Chen with a steel awl. Long Chen stretched out his hand, and Blood Drinker flew into his grasp. Clenching Blood Drinker, Long Chen felt his whole body overflowing with energy, as well as endless killing intent. Die! Long Chen slashed down his saber. Yin Wushang's awl was cut in two. Yin Wushang himself was cut in two. The entire plaza that was dozens of miles long was also cut in two. A whole line of experts, whether they were at Meridian Opening or Xiantian, was turned into a bloody mist. The Yin family's experts were all horrified. After cutting Yin Wushang in two, he was about to continue attacking him as he knew he could heal with the Heavenly Tao recovery. But then he saw a figure hiding in the crowd. Yin Qing. Clenching his teeth, Long Chen directly ignored Yin Wushang and raised his saber. Split the heavens. Boom! A terrifying saber chi filled all of heaven and earth. As it slashed down, a large runic hand suddenly appeared and smashed Long Chen's saber chi apart. See Expansion Expert. A cold smile appeared on Long Chen's face. Two elderly figures appeared in front of him. As expected, you really do have some shocking secrets. Hee hee, excellent, those will be my Yin family soon. One of them laughed. Hand over your secrets. The other elder was also incomparably excited. A large hand slammed down toward Long Chen. Divine Ring. 3-star battle armor. Green Dragon Possession. A 3-colored divine ring appeared behind Long Chen, and 3 stars revolved in his eyes. His aura was instantly pushed to the peak. But that still wasn't all. At this moment, the dragon scale in Long Chen's body disappeared. Heaven and earth rumbled, and a dragon cry seemed to resound throughout the world. Within the divine ring, the image of a green dragon appeared. When that green dragon appeared, it formed a resonance with heaven and earth. An unprecedented aura soared out of Long Chen. Rumble! The Yin family's grand formation was directly blown apart by this aura. What? The 2C expansion experts were completely appalled. The current Long Chen seemed like a completely different person. His aura had become fierce and violent, an aura that wasn't even human. It seemed more like a monster's. Release your anger as much as you please. That voice once more rang out in Long Chen's mind. Kill! Long Chen's furious roar shook the land. Blood Drinker seemed to come alive as it was nourished with some kind of energy, and a huge saber image slashed down on the 2C expansion experts. Void Shield. Wave Breaker. The two of them were both shocked. Long Chen's attack actually made them feel a sense of danger. The thing that made them furious was that this was the Yin family's ancestral land. They didn't dare attack with their full strength, or that would completely destroy the Yin family. They could only defend. Boom! The immense saber image viciously slashed down, and both of their defenses were actually blown away instantly. A terrifying energy wreaked havoc in the Yin family's plaza. The surrounding experts didn't even have time to run before being blown to bits. Seeing all of these experts being blown apart, the two of them were incredibly distressed. It had to be known that this was the core strength of the Yin family. Although a portion of them had realized the situation had changed and had fled in advance, allowing them to save their lives, over half of them had tried to flee too late and were killed. Those lucky survivors continued to flee. They had never imagined that the person they had brought over, the one whom they had thought would be a god of wealth, would suddenly become a god of death. This was completely out of their expectations. If this continued, not only would they not obtain Long Chen's secrets, but the entire Yin family would also be destroyed. As for Yin Qing, she was now completely terrified, and she was fleeing in the crowd, trying to keep herself concealed. The current Long Chen gave her a feeling like a blade was pressed against her throat, one that might take her life at any moment. As she was fleeing, a figure suddenly appeared in front of her, a blood-colored saber resting on his shoulder. Yin Qing screamed in terror and instantly turned still. She knew she should be running, but in that instant, she felt like her body was no longer listening to her, and she could only tremble. Long Chen's hand tightly clenched her throat, and he raised her into the air as if she were just a chicken. Endless terror appeared in Yin Qing's eyes. She looked up at the 2C expansion experts, hoping they would save her. Unfortunately, she saw that they didn't even look at her. They were ordering people to run as fast as they could, and it seemed they had also told Yin Wushang to go into the patriarch's secluded room to ask for help. Suddenly, a blazing flame enveloped Yin Qing. That wasn't the earth flame, but his pill flame. If it was the earth flame, then Yin Qing would be instantly burned to ashes. Long Chen didn't do so, as that was unable to resolve the hatred in his heart. Ah! Yin Qing's miserable shriek rang out. Long Chen's pill flame was not just burning her body but also her soul. That kind of pain was indescribable. Her shriek reverberated throughout the sky, but the 2C expansion experts still didn't even look at her. They both hoped Yin Qing could hold on for a bit longer. Using her life to exchange for a bit more time for everyone else to get away was worth it. Regretfully, Yin Qing's spiritual strength wasn't so powerful. She only lasted for a few breaths before her soul completely burned to nothing. Long Chen waved his hand, blowing away her ashes off his body. At the same time, a certain image on his right arm lit up. A flame sphere appeared in his hand. At first, that sphere was only the size of a fist, but as the flame tattoo on Long Chen's arm dimmed, that sphere grew larger and larger. Long Chen slowly floated into the air. The blue flame in his hand had reached a diameter of a mile. That was his limit. This was his first time drawing out all the energy of the earth flame. He hadn't kept the slightest bit back. Previously, he had had to hold back to avoid being killed by the explosion. But with the green dragon possession, he no longer had to fear that. This level of strength was unable to menace C expansion experts. However, Long Chen's target was not them. It was those people running away. Alright, go incinerate all those sinners. Long Chen waved his hand, and that huge flame sphere shot down like a meteorite. The 2C expansion experts' expressions changed. They recognized this to be Long Chen's terrifying earth flame. Although this was not the complete body of the earth flame, with how much of its power having been compressed, its explosive strength was enough to raise the entire Yin family. The two of them hastily formed hand seals, and the void rumbled as countless runes surged forth, wrapping around the flame sphere. Those runes tightly bound the flame sphere, wanting to erase its energy. However, that was not possible. Explode. Following Long Chen's cold shout, the runes wrapping around the flame sphere became still and then burst apart. The power of idiots really is limitless. Long Chen smiled mockingly. Flames exploded in every direction. The sea expansion expert's runes had become oil to the fire, increasing the power of the earth flame. No. The two sea expansion experts turned pale. Endless flames wrapped with runes filled everything within thousands of miles. Not only was the Yin family's ancestral land gone from this world, but even the surrounding mountains had been turned to ashes. Long Chen died. The two of them roared furiously and took out their weapons, charging at Long Chen. Chapter 603, 603. The Yin family's two sea expansion experts erupted with killing intent. They no longer had any misgivings, and they completely released their auras. There truly was nothing to have misgivings about anymore. The entire Yin family had been destroyed, and the dead could not be more dead. The two of them felt their hairs standing on end from rage. Die! The two of their swords emitted a cold light. The wings on their backs trembled, and they shot straight toward Long Chen. One move. Killing intent still burned in Long Chen's eyes. Even after killing all those people, his hatred still hadn't lessened. Yin Wushang was a piece of trash, a human dreg. However, such a person was able to receive the blessing of the heavenly Daos. Just that reason alone was enough for Long Chen to have an urge to completely destroy this world. Seeing the two of them coming at him, the green dragon image from the divine ring released a vast energy that poured throughout his body. In that instant, he felt like a volcano had erupted within him. Split the heavens. All that energy, all his spiritual qi, instantly passed through 9 acupuncture points. Buzz! A monstrous saber image pierced straight through the void, appearing like a crescent moon, a bloody crescent moon. Heaven and earth rumbled intensely as if the entire world was being split in two by this attack. Boom! The two sea expansion experts attacked with their full strength. However, they were still blown to pieces by this one attack. Long Chen suddenly coughed up a mouthful of blood. He was horrified to see that his meridians had become covered in fine cracks. Your physical body is too weak and unable to endure the green dragon power, not even 1/10,000th. That voice rang out in Long Chen's head again. At that critical moment, this voice had taught Long Chen how to use this green dragon possession, allowing him to summon the green dragon's power for himself. The voice's master had also helped Long Chen solidify space, allowing him to send his family away safely. Now hearing this voice explain what had happened, Long Chen was horrified. Within the same realm, his physical body was unrivaled. If Yin Wushang didn't have the cry of the heavenly Daos to protect himself, Long Chen could kill him with a single punch. But even such a physical body was called too weak now. That was a large blow to Long Chen. His physical body was his strongest point, and it was also the thing he had the most confidence in. What is going on here? Suddenly, a furious roar rang out. A white-haired elder stood on the ground, looking at the scene around him with disbelief. Behind him was the terrified Yin Wushang. There was a large cave behind them. When Long Chen had first started his slaughter, Yin Wushang had been ordered by the two sea expansion experts to go ask the patriarch to come out. Their patriarch had already reached the peak of sea expansion. A few days ago, he had made some comprehensions and felt the bottleneck loosen slightly, so he had gone into seclusion to attack a higher realm. Before entering seclusion, he had said that unless the Yin family had reached a life or death point, they were not to disturb him. His special secluded room was located underground, and it was protected by a powerful formation. Despite the heaven-toppling changes that had occurred on the surface, he hadn't felt the slightest fluctuation during his seclusion. Back then, the two sea expansion experts had already realized that this matter was too large to handle on their own. Even if they could kill Long Chen, the Yin family's ancestral land would be destroyed. So their only hope of avoiding that had been for their patriarch to suppress Long Chen. If all their junior generation of disciples were killed, leaving behind just their old, withered selves, then the Yin family's inheritance would still be severed. When Yin Wushang had barged into the patriarch's seclusion room, the patriarch had been at a critical moment. He almost became berserk upon being interrupted, coming incredibly close to killing Yin Wushang in his rage. But then when he heard the Yin family was on the verge of being exterminated, he had hastily rushed above ground with Yin Wushang. Unfortunately, at that time, everything had already ended. The patriarch saw everything within thousands of miles had been destroyed. The thing that made his heart turn cold was that he could no longer sense the bloodline energy of his Yin family. In other words, within thousands of miles, there were no longer any living Yin family disciples. He suddenly released a furious roar. He even thought he was dreaming. But since he had started cultivating, it had been several thousand years since he had had a dream. Long Chen. Yin Wushang saw the distant Long Chen and became filled with terror. Long Chen had already become his nightmare. Speak, what happened? Who did this? If you don't tell me, this old man will flay your skin and burn your soul for an eternity, roared the patriarch upon seeing Long Chen. As expected, from top to bottom, you're all a bunch of trash. That pompous, arrogant manner of yours really is nauseating. These people were all killed by me, so if you want revenge, come at me. Long Chen pointed his saber at the Yin family's patriarch, overflowing with battle intent. The reason his hate had yet to lessen was because he had yet to personally kill Yin Wushang. Seeing that he was still alive, seeing his target right there, his killing intent erupted. Brat, you can die. The patriarch roared and disappeared. When he reappeared, he was already right next to Long Chen, reaching out to grab his throat. But Long Chen had long since been prepared. He once more entered his strongest combat state, already having summoned the green dragon possession. Long Chen felt no fear toward the Yin family's patriarch, and his saber slashed down. This little bit dash. The patriarch only had time to get half of his words out before Long Chen's saber slashed down on his rune-covered hand. This palm attack, which he had absolute confidence in, was cut in two. Even his arm was almost slashed apart. The sharp pain made him hastily retreat in shock. Looking at the blood pouring out of his hand and then looking at Long Chen's saber, both greed and shock appeared on his face. A treasure weapon. You actually have a treasure item? Trash really is trash. As soon as you see a treasure, you get greedy, even forgetting your enmity of having all your progeny killed. The fact that trash like you could live in this world really means the heavens are blind, sneered Long Chen. At the same time, he absorbed the energy of the green dragon image in his divine ring and slashed out with Split the Heavens. Long Chen knew this old monster was many times stronger than those 2C expansion experts from before. He couldn't hold back at all. This power was not his own. He could only borrow it temporarily. However, being able to borrow such strength to fight would be greatly beneficial to him in the future, giving him increased control over his own power. The Yin family's patriarch took out a staff with a dragon head at the top. This staff was extremely heavy, as thick as a thigh, and longer than 3 meters. It collided with Long Chen's saber. Both Long Chen and the Yin family's patriarch were blown back dozens of meters. The patriarch looked at the nick that had been cut into his staff. As expected, it really is a treasure weapon. Your life and your weapon will all be mine. The wings behind this elder suddenly shook, and he charged at Long Chen. Boom, boom, boom. Long Chen's saber continuously collided with the patriarch's staff. Continuous explosions echoed out, and the powerful shockwaves made Yin Wushang tightly cover his ears. Blood slowly dripped from them. Previously, he hadn't had any defenses up and his eardrums had been broken by the shockwaves. Now he couldn't hear anything. All he saw was a sky full of dust. Long Chen exchanged hundreds of blows with the patriarch. The Yin family's patriarch was just too strong. He had practically absorbed all the energy within thousands of miles for his own use, and Long Chen was powerless to do anything to him in the short term. Seeing his staff smashing toward him, Long Chen directly stabbed his saber at the patriarch's chest, not defending against his staff at all. The patriarch was startled. He naturally wouldn't be willing to lose his life to kill Long Chen, and he hastily blocked. But then he realized that this attack was a fake. Long Chen's saber was already slashing toward his waist. Childish. The patriarch sneered and swept out his staff. This attack was completely ordinary and was unable to menace him. Boom! But when their weapons collided, the patriarch was shocked to sense some powerful strength turn his arm numb, and he was blown back. Wushang, careful. His expression suddenly changed as he found out that Long Chen was heading directly toward Yin Wushang. Right now, Yin Wushang was just foolishly staring at the dust in the air, unaware that a death god was approaching him. Although the patriarch gave him a timely warning, Yin Wushang's eardrums had already been broken, and he hadn't healed them yet. Unable to hear anything, the only thing he could sense was the intense fluctuations in the air. But the shockwaves from the intense battle just now were still reverberating throughout the world. The patriarch's warning was covered by those shockwaves. Yin Wushang suddenly felt a burst of pain from his chest as a saber pierced through him, lifting him into the air. Long Chen. Yin Wushang was filled with terror. This death god was once more standing in front of him, causing him to quiver. Long Chen pulled out his saber and clenched Yin Wushang's throat. He icily said to the patriarch, "Do you want to come over and try it? Long Chen, if you dare dash." Yin Wushang's arms separated from his body. Bastard dash. Yin Wushang's other arm left his body. You're courting death dash. Yin Wushang's legs both fell. Long Chen. Yin Wushang's limbs separated from the rest of his body. Holding Yin Wushang's head, he icily looked at the Yin family's patriarch. Please, continue threatening. Chapter 604. Each time the Yin family's patriarch had threatened him, Long Chen had cut off another part of Yin Wushang's body. Now Long Chen icily looked at the Yin family's patriarch while holding the only remaining part of Yin Wushang that was still attached to his body, his head. However, as Yin Wushang was a celestial, even though the only remaining part of him was his head, he still wouldn't die immediately. Long Chen, calm down a bit. We can discuss this. The patriarch forcibly suppressed his fury. Yin Wushang suddenly let out a mournful cry. Long Chen had placed his finger on his forehead and was boring into his soul with a spiritual awl. Having advanced to meridian opening, Long Chen's spiritual strength was stronger than ever. Although he wasn't a specialized soul cultivator, having been in contact with Meng Qi for so long, he had learned quite a few soul arts. Because he didn't have time to train in them, they were slightly lacking when it came to using them against opponents. But when it came to tormenting people, they were more than enough. Bastard! I've already admitted defeat. Quickly stop! Raged the patriarch. He had lived for countless years. But this was his first time speaking so subserviently, and it was toward a little brat to top it off. The most infuriating thing to him was that Long Chen was still ignoring him, continuing to torment Yin Wushang. Your admission of defeat has nothing to do with me, replied Long Chen icily. He increased his spiritual strength. Ah! Yin Wushang's mournful cry continued to resound throughout the world. He felt like millions of needles were stabbing into his soul. That kind of pain was enough to make him want to die. But the pain of the soul was unrelated to the physical body. No matter how much he longed to, he was unable to pass out. He suddenly felt that death was an incredibly happy thing. Bastard, stop. What do you want? The Yin family's patriarch was on the verge of exploding. The Yin family's millions of members had all been killed now. Their sole scion was Yin Wushang. As for the patriarch, he was too old. Although his cultivation base had reached the peak of sea expansion, his essence qi had already declined. There was no way he could birth more progeny. But Yin Wushang was in the springtime of his youth. As long as he found a few hundred wives for him, then several thousand years from now, the Yin family's bloodline could be revived. It could be said Yin Wushang was the sole hope of the Yin family now. So the patriarch had no choice but to suppress his hatred of Long Chen. What do I want? Shouldn't I be the one asking you? You arrogant idiots, did you think yourselves as gods? I had nothing to do with your Yin family, but you forced me to this point. Now you want to ask me what I want. From Yin Wushuang to Han Tianyu and then to Yin Wushang, everything is because of your Yin family. First, you caused so many of my brothers to die in the Zhili secret realm. Then, in the Xiantian monastery, you actually chased me down for thousands of miles, and then you even harmed those brothers of the Muxue mercenary unit. Now you've even placed your sights on my family. This is all because of your own greed. You vainly wanted my secrets. Don't you feel embarrassed to ask me this now? Let me ask you, if you were me, what would you want? Long Chen's voice was extremely calm, but that calm contained endless grievance, and it was much more frightening than a roar. The patriarch's heart sank. He was aware of Long Chen's matters. However, Long Chen was just a small cultivator without any background. He had never placed him in his eyes. When Yin Wushang had expressed his interest in Long Chen's secrets, he had simply smiled slightly. In fact, he had encouraged him, saying that if he wanted to take action, he had to show the domineering side of the Yin family. As a result, Yin Wushang's actions had drawn a killing god to the Yin family. Of the Yin family, the only ones remaining were Yin Wushang and the patriarch. And from Long Chen's attitude, it seemed Yin Wushang's death was certain. Bastard, if you dare kill Wushang, I'll exterminate your whole family, roared the patriarch. Long Chen didn't reply to him. It was Yin Wushang's miserable shriek that delivered him Long Chen's answer. A ball of flames had appeared in Long Chen's hand, roasting Yin Wushang. That was the earth flame. After that full-strength attack just now, it had only just recovered this little bit of power, so now it wasn't too strong nor was it too weak. It was just perfect to allow Yin Wushang to enjoy the feeling of being burned. Furthermore, Yin Wushang's soul was also being burned within the earth flame, truly pushing his suffering to the peak. Release Wushang. The patriarch roared and charged at Long Chen. His staff smashed down ferociously on him. Long Chen didn't dodge, nor did he block. He simply threw over Yin Wushang's head. The patriarch hastily pulled back his force. The reversal of his spiritual qi caused him to cough up a mouthful of blood. Long Chen! The patriarch roared furiously, seeming like an angry lion. His eyes practically spat flames. Are you angry? So even you know how to be angry. When you killed others, did you once bother with their anger? When you killed others, you simply felt yourselves to be a high and aloof ancient family, treating other humans simply as ants. A bout of fury from you caused rivers of blood to flow. Today I'll let you idiots know that in this world, there is no one that has absolute power. It was you people that pushed things to this point. I'll take the place of these blind heavens to put you in your place. Long Chen's expression was fierce, and with a furious roar, Yin Wushang's head exploded, his soul erased. In that instant, runes erupted into the air from Yin Wushang's headless corpse. Those were his heavenly Tao runes. Now that their master had died, these runes tried to return to heaven and earth. But Long Chen slashed his saber down on them. You blind things, you want to be recycled and given to another idiot. His saber released a powerful fluctuation that completely destroyed all those heavenly Daos runes. Once they were destroyed, they were like snow on a hot day, quickly dissipating. As they faded from the air, they appeared in the primal chaos space, merging into that small tree. Long Chen wasn't able to pay attention to those small details. He was focused completely on the patriarch, as he sensed he was about to go berserk. The patriarch was clenching his teeth, his eyes scarlet and his whole body quivering as if he was having a seizure. But his aura was climbing to a terrifying level. Long Chen. He was like a crazy magical beast, his staff unleashing a fierce tempest of attacks. Long Chen could only raise his saber to take them head-on. Powerful explosions rocked the world, and the ground seemed to turn liquid, constantly deforming from their exchanges. Yin Wushang's death had made the patriarch go completely insane because the Yin family's inheritance was truly severed. Although there might be some more members of the Yin family in the outside world, those were not part of the main bloodline, and they were unable to continue their bloodline. The Yin family's chances of surviving had been completely erased. Long Chen's saber released a bloody light as it fiercely defended against the patriarch's full-strength attacks. The wings on the patriarch's back trembled, releasing berserk runes that possessed a heaven-shaking power. Each attack was incredibly powerful. If Long Chen had been relying on his own strength, he wouldn't be able to receive a single attack. He would have been directly smashed to smithereens. That was the terrifying power of sea expansion experts. But the illusory green dragon behind Long Chen was giving him endless power. He was able to draw out as much power from this practically bottomless source as he wanted. Unfortunately, Long Chen was unable to use much of this power. It was like he was using a cup to draw out the water of a huge sea. Compared to the green dragon, Long Chen's own power was truly not worth anything. However, this power still allowed Long Chen to fight against the Yin family's patriarch without showing any signs of losing. That made him incomparably shocked. He was currently adapting to using this terrifying strength. Even once this power faded, Long Chen's physical body would still have strengthened a great deal. Die! The patriarch roared, his staff releasing a blinding light as it smashed down on Long Chen. This attack was stronger than any of his previous blows. Long Chen was startled as this attack had come out of nowhere, but he sensed that it posed a fatal danger to him. What Long Chen didn't know was that after entering the sea expansion realm, cultivators entered a different kind of level. Their techniques would no longer be called techniques, but called magical arts. These so-called magical arts used the laws of heaven and earth. Compared to battle skills, there was an immense difference. But these kinds of magical arts required a profound comprehension of the laws of the world. Furthermore, most terrifying of all, if magical arts were used even slightly wrong, it would cause a powerful backlash. The backlash of the world's laws would cause a person's body to explode. When Long Chen had been fighting those two sea expansion experts previously, they didn't dare use any magical arts because they were unable to control them properly, and they didn't dare take that risk. But by the time they thought that taking that risk would be worth it, it was already too late. Long Chen's saber had killed them too fast. Most likely, the two of them were so furious at having been killed by Long Chen that they would die another time from rage. The Yin family's patriarch was able to rely on his core energy to control the laws of the world to unleash this heaven-shaking attack. Soul-devouring strike. His staff lit up with countless runes, causing the void to turn turbulent, and it smashed down. Long Chen's heart sank. This attack was too terrifying, and he had never run into something like this. Tightly clenching Blood Drinker, he poured his energy into it. Split the heavens. Boom! A world-shaking explosion rang out. Long Chen felt as if he had been smashed by a heavenly staff, and he vomited a mouthful of blood as he crashed into the ground. A bottomless hole appeared on the ground. The earth rippled from the aftershock, and the ancestral land of the Yin family became a basin. The Yin family's patriarch also vomited a mouthful of blood, his expression pale. Due to his fury, he hadn't controlled his strength perfectly, and he had received a heavy backlash. But he ignored his injury and immediately went to see what had happened with Long Chen. When he saw him, his pupils shrank. Chapter 605, 605. Long Chen crawled up from the ground. His hair was a mess, and his body was covered in blood. His robes had been completely destroyed, and even his pants were mostly gone. There was only a single strip that waved in the wind, appearing extremely carefree. A single attack broke the majority of my bones. How terrifying! If it hadn't been for the primal chaos bead, then even with the green dragon possession, I'd have still died. Long Chen was shocked inside. At the same time, he thanked his foresight in having planted countless large trees in the primal chaos space. A vast amount of life energy instantly healed him. Celestials had their heavenly Tao recovery. That was already completely monstrous, but the primal chaos bead wasn't at all inferior. Their heavenly Tao recovery required a few seconds to heal, but Long Chen's recovery was almost instant. Furthermore, other than attacks from Celestials who were supported by the heavenly Taos, any other injuries healed easily. That terrifying attack only took 1/10 of the primal chaos space's life energy. This gave Long Chen a large boost in confidence. "Old fogey, I'll reunite you with your family." Long Chen raised Blood Drinker, shooting forward at the still shocked patriarch. The Yin family's patriarch blocked Long Chen's saber, but then he vomited 3 mouthfuls of blood due to the backlash from the natural laws. However, Long Chen was still as strong as before. The difference between them immediately widened. Impossible! He felt like he was going crazy. Long Chen was just a rookie. In terms of age, the two couldn't even be compared. But now that he had even taken the risk of a backlash to use his strongest attack, Long Chen still wasn't injured at all. He looked at him like he was a ghost. "Old ghost, get going." After sending the patriarch flying back, Long Chen raised his left hand and shot out a lightning arrow. The patriarch was caught off guard, not expecting Long Chen to have long-range attacks like this. Furthermore, his attack was too fast, reaching him in an instant. He hastily dodged to the side. The sound of bones breaking rang out. The lightning had shattered his shoulder, causing his left arm to leave the rest of his body. But he had managed to save his head. The patriarch let out a mournful shriek. It had already been countless years since he had received a physical injury. Die! When Long Chen had sent out that lightning arrow, he hadn't had any expectations of it killing him. So at the same time as he had shot it out, he had also sprung into action, appearing like a phantom on the patriarch's right, his saber slashing down. His timing and angle could only be described as perfect. He didn't give the patriarch any time to counterattack. This attack definitely could kill the patriarch. But Long Chen's heart suddenly pounded, and his scalp turned numb. A sensation of death filled him. Although he didn't know what was going on, Long Chen immediately gave up on attacking, releasing countless saber images before him to form a defense. Suddenly, the void trembled intensely, and a bell appeared out of nowhere, smashing into Long Chen. Boom! Long Chen shot down like a meteorite, smashing into the ground. He cut a ditch dozens of miles long before coming to stop. He hacked up a mouthful of blood along with broken pieces of his organs. He felt like his whole body was about to collapse. Quickly healing, he looked up to see that a 3-meter-tall golden bell had appeared in the air. Runes completely covered this large existence, and its golden light shone brilliantly. Its appearance caused even the void to shudder. To kill a meridian-opening brat, I actually have to use our ancestral Jade Sea Gold Bell. How laughable! The patriarch stood atop the bell with a self-mocking expression. This Jade Sea Gold Bell is a treasure item left behind my Yin family's ancestors. However, because it was injured, its spirit has to be constantly nourished. It was in a critical period just now, yet I had no choice but to summon it because of you. Long Chen, you've wasted tens of thousands of years of my Yin family's work. Just how should I thank you? The Yin family's patriarch stood above the bell, staring down at Long Chen with his scarlet eyes, looking just like a magical beast staring at its prey. How should you thank me? If you really want to, you can smash your head against that bell, kill yourself, and then give that bell to me. Long Chen slowly stood up, putting on a new set of robes. That was because after the previous attack, the only thing remaining on Long Chen's body was some underpants. Fighting bare skin might be able to reduce air resistance, but Long Chen really wasn't accustomed to fighting like that. Give it to you? Ha, I'll give it to you right now. The patriarch suddenly laughed crazily. It was unknown what secret technique he used, but the arm Long Chen had severed regrew, and forming a hand seal, the Jade Sea Gold Bell rumbled. The runes carved into the bell began to shine, their light merging together and turning into a ray of golden light that shot at Long Chen. That light was blinding and glaring. It had a diameter of 300 meters and brought with it an annihilative aura. It was incredibly fast, and its size made it so Long Chen had no chance of dodging. Long Chen blocked with his full strength, but he was still sent flying by its terrifying power. However, Long Chen hadn't just foolishly taken it head-on, instead using his full strength to divert the attack slightly. As a result, he wildly vomited blood and his body almost fell apart. Wherever the light passed, the land was destroyed. An endless canyon formed in the ground. Too monstrous. There's simply no way to beat him. Long Chen sucked in a cold breath of air. It was fortunate he hadn't just taken it head-on, as just the outer strength had injured him so heavily. Taking it head-on would have been definite death. That Jade Sea Gold Bell's power was practically apocalyptic. Long Chen had never seen such a terrifying weapon. Time to slip away. Long Chen made the wisest decision. Such strength had already surpassed the scope of his understanding, and continuing to fight was just stupid. Activating the Netherworld Ghost Steps, he was like a phantom as he sped away. Long Chen was truly not a greedy person. He decided this battle could end like this. Even though he hadn't cut down the Yin family's patriarch, he didn't feel any regret. Once he cultivated some more, he would go find him again. You want to run? Keep dreaming. The patriarch roared and formed a hand seal. The Jade Sea Gold Bell shook and then flew toward Long Chen quickly, catching up in an instant. Under the control of the patriarch, another ray of golden light shot out of the bell. This time, Long Chen was prepared. As soon as that golden light began to gather, he began accumulating energy. The instant the bell's aura locked him down, he slashed out his saber, breaking the lock and dodging to the side. The golden light missed and it caused the patriarch to fly into a rage. He had no idea how Long Chen could break out of the lock of the Jade Sea Gold Bell. Let alone a meridian opening rookie, even a sea expansion expert wouldn't be able to do so. The thing that made him the most furious was that the Jade Sea Gold Bell had been heavily injured after a huge battle in the past. It wasn't able to release that many attacks in its current state. At most, it would be able to release 10 more attacks before the item spirit ran out of energy and would have to enter a slumber. After tens of thousands of years of hard work from the Yin family, after exhausting endless resources, the item spirit had been extremely close to suppressing its injury. Then it would be able to absorb spiritual qi to fully heal. But during that time, it couldn't be used without ruining all that work. That was why the patriarch hadn't used the bell when Yin Wushang had still been alive. Once Yin Wushang was killed, the Yin family's inheritance was completely severed, and the patriarch descended into madness. No longer caring about any consequences, he directly activated the Jade Sea Gold Bell. But even after 3 attacks, he was unable to kill Long Chen. The previous 2 attacks had clearly been extremely close to killing Long Chen, but he had somehow instantly healed. The patriarch was so furious, he felt like he was going to explode. He didn't know that Long Chen was grumbling inside. Over half the life energy in the primal chaos space had been used up. Long Chen could heal only 5 more times. Despite having dodged this attack, he was still sent flying by the shockwave. Most sinister of all, the Yin family's patriarch had directly used a second attack. In midair, despite doing his best, Long Chen was at most able to avoid the core of the attack. But struck by the outer edge, Long Chen wildly vomited blood. This time, his injuries were even more severe. He hastily healed with the primal chaos space and rushed away. A large, black city arrived at the Yin family's ancestral land. Seeing the huge basin, Mo was filled with disbelief. "Grandfather, are you sure this is the Yin family's ancestral land?" asked Mo Yen. "The earth is still fresh, and the aura of a battle has yet to scatter. There are fluctuations in that direction. Let's hurry." Mo hastily sent the Mo mountain seal flying in a certain direction. Tens of thousands of miles away, they saw a scene that made their jaws drop. Long Chen was fleeing in a miserable state, while the Yin family's patriarch was standing atop the Jade Sea Gold Bell as he crazily attacked. "Long Chen is still alive. This brat's life really is hardy. Mo Nian was delighted and he loudly shouted, Long Chen, don't be afraid. Your brother has come to save you. 10 years I wandered with my bow, my arrows causing heaven and earth to shake. The 9 heavens, the 10 lands, and all the universe will revolve around me. Only I, Mo Nian, will alea. Before he could finish, Mo Nian was kicked to the side by Mo Yi. Mo Yi's aura completely erupted, and he formed a hand seal. Mo Mountain Heaven Collapsing Arrow. Countless runes lit up on the Mo Mountain seal, and a huge black arrow shot straight at the Jade Sea Gold Bell. Chapter 606. The Yin family's patriarch was in the midst of chasing Long Chen. He was extremely anxious as he had already used several of his limited attacks to try and kill Long Chen. Now, he only had 2 more chances. If he still wasn't able to kill Long Chen, then not only would the spirit of the Jade Sea Gold Bell fall into a slumber, but he himself might also be killed by Long Chen. Just now, he had seen cracks appear on Long Chen's body, but they had miraculously healed instantly. That made him feel some terror at his power. So with these last 2 attacks, he had to kill Long Chen in 1 hit. What he didn't know was that Long Chen had already run out of energy. All the trees in the primal chaos space had withered. If he was struck once more, he would definitely die. The thing that made him the most vexed was the fact that there was endless energy within the green dragon image in his divine ring, but he was unable to use it. It was like he was a beggar that was starving to death as he sat on a mountain of gold. The Yin family's patriarch's hesitation had ended up helping Long Chen survive. Otherwise, with 1 more attack, Long Chen would immediately be exposed. Just as Long Chen thought he was doomed, he heard Mo Nian's grandiose chanting, and he was filled with delight. As the patriarch and Long Chen had been fleeing and chasing while calculating against the other with all their might, they had been totally oblivious to a monstrous existence approaching them. When the patriarch saw the Mo Mountain seal, he immediately turned pale with terror. That was especially so when he saw Mo Yi forming hand seals to attack. His soul practically fled in fear. But Mo Yi's large arrow was like a god's arrow, and there was no way for him to dodge. Clenching his teeth, the patriarch slammed his hands on the Jade Sea Gold Bell, instantly activating all of its energy to form a huge shield around him. Boom! The Jade Sea Gold Bell actually broke with a single attack. The patriarch vomited blood wildly as he fell to the ground. A blood-red saber had long since been waiting for him on the ground. It pierced through his body until he landed on the hilt. Long Chen icily looked at the Yin family's patriarch. The patriarch seemed to have lost all his bones as he lay there limply. The attack from the Mo Mountain seal had not only broken the Jade Sea Gold Bell, but it had also sent the patriarch halfway to his grave. His bones had been turned to powder, and his meridians had been broken. He was already a cripple. Long Chen, just wait, even in death. I will turn into a ghost. I won't that do the stuff. All right, I'll wait for you. A powerful force surged through Long Chen's saber, directly turning the Yin family's patriarch into a bloody mist. Seeing that the Yin family's patriarch had been killed, all the Mo family's experts felt a chill. Just what kind of monster was Long Chen? Ah, Long Chen, you're still alive. You're lucky your brother made it on time and saved you. Hey, what's wrong? Mo Nian had rushed over, immensely pleased with himself, when Long Chen suddenly sat on the ground, his face pale as paper. This is from overdrafting his strength. The burden placed on his physical body surpassed his body's limits. It's nothing too big. In fact, it's a good thing. Once he recovers, his strength will rise another level, said Mo Yi. He was filled with shock as he looked at Long Chen. Although Long Chen had put away his divine ring, the dragon image in his divine ring had still made Mo Yi feel shocked. It had made him feel a reverence that came from the depths of his soul. At the same time, he realized why the Yin family's ancestral land had been turned into an immense basin. It had all been done by Long Chen. Even with the patriarch personally taking action, they had been unable to subdue Long Chen. In fact, he had summoned the Jade Sea Gold Bell but still had allowed Long Chen to flee for tens of thousands of miles. It could be seen just how powerful Long Chen had been back then. Long Chen was definitely not human. He had to be a monster. For a single human to destroy an entire ancient family, that was definitely heaven-defying. Gate Master, this is the Yin family's patriarch's spatial ring, as well as the fragments of the Jade Sea Gold Bell. An expert from the Mo family ran over and handed 2 rings to Mo. Originally, the Jade Sea Gold Bell could not be stored in a spatial ring. But now that it had been destroyed, its fragments could be stored. Long Chen, these are your battle spoils, smiled Mo, handing them to Long Chen. Long Chen was supported by Mo Nian and stood up. He felt like his whole body might fall apart at any moment. He shook his head. This is all your work. Otherwise, I would have long since died. How could I want any battle spoils? How about you just give me the fragments of the Jade Sea Gold Bell? Perhaps I might have some use for them. Long Chen really was unable to accept both rings. He only took the one with the fragments. The Jade Sea Gold Bell was a treasure item. But after its destruction, along with the passing of its spirit, it's just a bunch of scrap metal. It can be remelted and refined into some precious materials, but it's pretty much useless to you. You don't have the ability to refine such high-grade materials. Mo frowned, wanting to switch with Long Chen. It had to be known that the Yin family's patriarch was the leader of an entire ancient family. His spatial ring most likely contained almost half of the Yin family's total wealth. Don't be as unreasonable as me. Fighting over something like this is foolish. Long Chen bitterly smiled. All right, being called unreasonable by a little fellow like you really is a first for me. If this brat Mo Nian dare do so, this old man would slap him so hard into a wall that he couldn't even be extracted, said Mo. Fuck, why do you have to pull me into this? Raged Mo Nian. Mo Yunshan and the others laughed. The Mo family's temperament was just like this. Come, let's go back to the Yin family's ancestral land and see what he can dig up, said Mo. Why bother? The people have already been killed, and the enmity has already been avenged. There's no need to rob their graves, said Long Chen. It seemed Mo was even more ruthless than him. What graves? The Yin family definitely has an underground storage house. It shouldn't have been destroyed. If Mo didn't see how weak Long Chen currently was, he would definitely have to give him a beating. How could he, the leader of a grand sect, possibly do something as morally wrong as robbing graves? 2 hours later, they really did find a treasury beneath the Yin family's ancestral land. There were layers of restrictions that had to be removed. Not bad. The resources we lost to activate the Mo Mountain Seal can all be compensated, and there should still be quite the profit afterward. When Mo entered the treasury, he couldn't help but laugh. He handed this matter to Mo Yunshan and left with Long Chen, not allowing anyone else to approach them. Long Chen didn't know why Mo would do something so out of character. When had something so serious happened? Mo and Long Chen entered Mo Gate. Mo found a private room for them and then said, "This time, Mo Gate will be moving locations. Do you want to come with us?" "Why are you moving?" Long Chen was startled. Because the battle this time has revealed the existence of the Mo Mountain Seal. In truth, our Mo Gate was once an ancient family. Due to being pushed aside and entrapped by others inside the ancient family alliance, we withdrew from the alliance. But there are still people who covet our Mo Mountain Seal, and they sent those brats to test us, said Mo. Hearing this, Long Chen felt incredibly apologetic. Previously, Mo had already told him how he had unleashed the divine might of the Mo Mountain Seal to eradicate his enemies in the scorched earth forest. Long Chen knew it was because of him that the Mo family had exposed the existence of the Mo Mountain Seal. Child, you don't need to think too much. The Mo Mountain Seal would have been exposed sooner or later. If someone should be thanking the other, it should be my Mo family that thanks to you. Mo Nian finally found his own path. That's our Mo family's greatest gain, and it's because of you. Mo Nian is the only hope of my Mo family rising. I'm planning on bringing Mo Nyen back to the Mo clan's ancestral land to see if he can obtain our ancestral inheritance. If he succeeds, then in less than 3 years, our Mo family will properly settle our accounts with those bastards that pushed us out in the first place. We're going to immediately leave Qing Prefecture. So I need to know if you want to leave with us. The current you is in a dangerous position, and that's not favorable for your cultivation. Staying with us should be the smartest choice for you, said Moe gravely. Right now, Long Chen was being stared at from all angles. Countless people would guess he had received a heaven-defying opportunity in the Jioli's secret realm for him to have his current power. The Yin family was a good example. They had been willing to commit all sorts of crimes to target him. This time, Long Chen had been saved by Mo Gate, but who would save him the next time? Could he live in seclusion? Long Chen bitterly smiled. He knew that Mo Yi's suggestion was the smartest choice for him, but his intuition told him he wasn't able to do that. He might be able to live in seclusion, but what about the others? He wasn't just one person. He still had that many brothers, many beauties, and now even his father, his mother, and his little sister. He couldn't leave them. Sorry, I can't leave, said Long Chen. Mo sighed, seeming to have long since expected this answer. He knew Long Chen wouldn't give up those people, but he also couldn't wait while Long Chen gathered them all because the Mo mountain seal had already been exposed. Back when the Mo clan left the ancient family alliance, they had split into dozens of different branches. Their enemies hadn't been sure which branch had the Mo mountain seal. But now that it had been exposed, once their enemies received the news, they would immediately rush over. So they had to leave right now. The Mo family's enemies were so strong that they were beyond Long Chen's imagination. That was why Moe had patiently waited for this day. Now that Mo Nyen had begun to rise, the Mo family was not going to continue waiting. Since you don't want to leave with us, let me tell you a few things. Listen closely. In a bit, I will activate the Mo mountain seal again and smash it into the Yin family's ancestral land, leaving behind the aura of the Mo mountain seal. As for you, you never managed to reach this place. That teleportation talisman was too old and had become defective. Halfway through, it ejected you from the spatial channel. Do you understand? Long Chen nodded. Moe was planning on bearing the consequences for the destruction of the Yin family himself. Long Chen was incredibly grateful. Good. Then let's talk about that saber you have. Are you aware that your blood-red saber is also a treasure weapon and an extremely terrifying one at that? Chapter 607, 607. Let me see your saber, said Moe. Long Chen hastily handed over Blood Drinker. A trace of warmth appeared in Moe's eyes. This was true trust. Moe gently rubbed the saber. The saber was red as blood, as if it had been made out of blood. It was filled with the aura of slaughter. Moe's hand suddenly trembled. A cut appeared on the finger he had used to rub the blade. It really is an amazing weapon. It actually refuses to allow others to touch it, laughed Moe. He handed Blood Drinker back to Long Chen. This saber spirit is still sleeping. The power it has offered you is its most instinctual power, as it's unable to connect with you. You have to think of a way to nourish it. If you can awaken the spirit one day, you'll be able to release its full power. Long Chen's heart pounded wildly as he looked at Blood Drinker. This was a gift from the barbarian race expert, but it had also been entrusted to him. He hadn't expected it to be so terrifying. Up to now, the only feeling Blood Drinker had expressed to Long Chen was an urge to slaughter. It seemed it was possible to nourish it with the blood of experts. Previously, Long Chen had felt a slight mental connection with Blood Drinker. But now it had disappeared. Could it be that after killing those sea expansion experts, Blood Drinker had reached a saturation point and needed to rest? Long Chen, you should keep the strength of this saber hidden in the future. Don't use it normally. As soon as this saber clashes with another treasure item, it will instantly expose its power. So be careful. If you don't need to use it, don't. Such a treasure would make countless people greedy. The open spear is easy to dodge, but the hidden arrow is hard to defend against. Do your best not to reveal it. Be cautious, and then be even more cautious, warned Mo. Thank you for your teachings, said Long Chen. All right, time's about up. Say your goodbyes to Mo Nian. Perhaps it'll be many years before you ever see each other again. Seeing the huge city disappear into the sky, Long Chen felt a sense of loss, as well as a slight sense of helplessness. This was cultivation, this was life. Everyone had their own troubles. Even an existence as powerful as the Mo family, even with that powerful killing tool, the Mo mountain seal, they still had to flee miserably. It really made a person sigh with emotion. Back when he left Phoenix Cry, he had become a true cultivator. Long Chen had felt extremely satisfied with himself back then. As a blood condensation expert, he had swept through his enemies in Phoenix Cry. Just how impressive was that? But now, he had already reached Meridian Opening. As his cultivation base grew, his enemies also grew stronger. He still felt like he was not the master of his own fate. In fact, he no longer felt the slightest sense of safety. Stronger? He had to get stronger. Senior, are you still there? Once Long Chen left the Yin family's ancestral land and had traveled for a few hours, he felt it was safe enough to slow down. He yelled into his soul. I am. This time, it's all thanks to your help. You saved my family and also saved my life. No matter what you want, I definitely won't hesitate, said Long Chen. Even if I want you to exterminate heaven and earth, becoming enemies with gods, you'd still be willing? This was just a spiritual fluctuation. There was no emotion in the voice. I'd be willing. That voice was silent for a moment before saying, I've kept watch on you for a long time. Originally, your life and death had nothing to do with me. But today, you've made me feel slightly moved. You are an idiot. An idiot like you really hasn't appeared in a long time. You're an idiot who cares about emotions and relationships. So I helped you out this time. However, it comes with a price. As long as I, Long Chen, can accomplish it, I definitely won't even frown. The current you is still too weak, much too weak. Close your eyes. If I close my eyes, I'll crash into a tree. Long Chen hesitated. Can't you stop for a moment? It won't take too long. Long Chen stopped and closed his eyes. All right, now open your eyes. When Long Chen opened his eyes, he found that he was within the boundless cosmos. Endless stars twinkled around him, and he couldn't help being indescribably shocked. This is my viewpoint. Do you see that star field up ahead? That lump of paste with countless sesame seeds? Asked Long Chen. That's where you are. You are within one of those sesame seeds. Long Chen's heart pounded fervently. The world he was in was actually so small. Just what kind of figure was the master of this voice? I'm showing you this so you know the difference between us. Your current strength is unable to help me. You have to quickly become stronger and break through the restrictions of your world. At that time, you might have the qualifications to help me. That will probably take a very long time. Long Chen gulped. How long is a very long time? Probably several decades, or perhaps even a few centuries. What kind of joke was this? His own world was just a sesame seed. The master of this voice was definitely a terrifying existence. Thinking of how strong he'd have to become to help such an existence, Long Chen didn't have the slightest confidence. He even wanted to say that it would take him a few centuries, but he hadn't been able to say such a thing. Decades? Centuries? Those are time units of your world. Where I am, time is measured by star cycles, the time it takes for a star to be born and then destroyed. I've been here, watching the stars before me die, be reborn, and then die again, for I don't even know how long. Your units mean nothing to me. Furthermore, I only helped you out randomly. I don't have any high hopes. You can just treat it as me being bored. After all, we have a destiny together, or my reverse scale wouldn't have landed in your hands. What? This reverse scale is yours? Correct. That is the result of my first molting when I was born. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to even sense you. Your first molting, when you were born. You are a true dragon? Long Chen's voice shuddered slightly. This world truly did possess the existence known as the true dragon. When I was born, all my scales were green, so the outer world called me a green dragon. But we're only called green dragons for our childhood. So the energy you could use was merely the power I had in my childhood. But your cultivation technique is very strange, and it was actually able to fix my green dragon strength in place. It only allows you to use a portion of that energy. Perhaps it is trying to protect you. But this will not allow you to draw out more of the green dragon's power. Otherwise, just now, you would have been able to kill your opponent instantly. However, at the same time, your body wouldn't be able to bear that much power and would explode. Hearing that, Long Chen's heart pounded. The green dragon, which in human terms was just a baby, already possessed such power. Just what kind of existence was the dragon race? Long Chen was confident in his powerful physical body, but compared to dragons, he had to admit defeat even to a newborn. That was a great blow to his self-confidence. For you to put it like this, I really feel like I'm a piece of trash, sighed Long Chen. Your physical body really is trash. But your cultivation technique is very special. It's actually able to keep a certain amount of control over my green dragon strength. Perhaps this is an opportunity for you to completely change your fate. There's not much time left. The energy I sent down this time is about to fade. I will transmit a cultivation technique of my dragon race to you. If you really are heaven-defying enough, perhaps you can cultivate in it. But if you aren't able to cultivate in it, then just act as if I never appeared, because that means you will never be able to help me. After the voice finished speaking, a large flood of information poured into Long Chen's head. Long Chen felt like his head was about to split. He collapsed on the ground, clenching his head. The pain lasted for an incense stick's worth of time before receding. He was completely pale and covered with sweat. The pain of the soul really is indescribable. It's 10,000 times the pain of the physical body, sighed Long Chen. He finally experienced just how painful spiritual pain was. Only after resting for a while did Long Chen flip through his memories to find a large amount of information in the form of a cultivation technique. Dragon Blood Body Tempering Art. Long Chen carefully studied it. Using dragon blood to temper the physical body was extremely dangerous. There were two requirements to train in this technique. One was that you had the essence blood of a dragon, and the other was that you had 1,000 caddies of strength. The dragon race expert had told Long Chen that his reverse scale only had a single drop of essence blood for Long Chen to use. Furthermore, this essence blood contained his spiritual memory, and it wouldn't fight back when Long Chen refined it. As for the 1,000 caddies of strength, that meant that the physical body could endure 1,000 caddies of force. This was something Long Chen had long since achieved. One caddy was 30 pounds, so 1,000 caddies was just 30,000 pounds. That was too easy for Long Chen. But he kept feeling like something was wrong. If he could so easily refine the green dragon essence blood, how was it that he had been unable to use even 1/10,000th of the green dragon's strength? What the fuck, I almost got killed. Long Chen suddenly clapped his own leg. The cultivation technique the dragon race expert had given him had been transmitted with immortal characters. But being afraid that Long Chen wouldn't understand it all, the dragon had also added in its own notations. One of those notations said that the caddy referred to in this cultivation technique was not the current caddy, but the immortal era's caddy. And the immortal era's caddy was equivalent to 300,000 pounds. Thinking of that, Long Chen became covered in a cold sweat. 300,000 pounds a caddy, so then 1,000 caddies would be 300 million pounds. With his current strength, although he hadn't tested it, he estimated it should be around 20 million pounds. 20 million and 300 million. The difference was truly immense. If Long Chen had just foolishly absorbed the green dragon essence blood, then it would be strange if he didn't immediately explode. Such a death would really be too stupid. But today, Long Chen had seen a vaster sky for himself, and he was filled with expectations. I can only set this matter aside for now. Without stepping into the Xiantian realm, refining the green dragon essence blood is just impossible. I should first go see my parents. Long Chen switched directions, rushing in the direction the dragon race expert had shown him. That was where it had transported little Snow. Chapter 608. After rushing for over a day, Long Chen finally found the tracks that little Snow had left behind. This was where little Snow had been teleported. This was already extremely far from the Yin family's ancestral land. Following the tracks little Snow had left behind for over a day, he finally arrived at a small city. Long Chen found his family in an inn. Within the entire inn, the only guests were the Long family. That was because as soon as little Snow had come, the other guests had all fled in terror. This place was just a small city, and the population didn't exceed 100,000. Even the tendon transformation realm was considered extremely powerful while bone-forging experts were peerless. How could they have ever seen a 5th-rank magical beast? When Long Tianxiao had arrived on Little Snow's back, even the manager of the inn had been prepared to run. Little Snow's aura was just too terrifying. He directly told Long Tianxiao that he could pick whatever room he wanted. If Long Tianxiao hadn't comforted him, the manager would have long since fled. Seeing Long Chen had arrived, Mrs. Long immediately hugged him, sobbing. Long Tianxiao's eyes were also red. He had thought he would never be able to see Long Chen again. Mom, child was unfilial, implicating you. Long Chen was also choked with sobs. He had gone out to cultivate on his own, and due to that, he had implicated his parents, causing them to suffer. Foolish child, what nonsense. Come, meet your little sister. I came up with her name, Long Xiaoyu. Xiaoyu, quickly come greet your big brother. This is the big brother your mom and dad have told you about. Mrs. Long pulled the little girl over. Big brother. The little girl looked at Long Chen with her pure eyes. She was slightly afraid as well as slightly curious. She hid behind Mrs. Long's leg, caught between not daring to look at him and wanting to see him. Xiaoyu? As in the pretty daughter of a humble family? Mom, it seems you're afraid my sister will run off too. Laughed Long Chen. From this name, it seemed his mother didn't hope for Xiaoyu to have any accomplishments. All she wanted was for her to peacefully live by her side, being an obedient child. But hearing this name, Long Chen remembered another figure who was only slightly bigger than Xiaoyu. It seemed she had also said her name, and it was very similar. But he had forgotten what it was exactly. Come, Xiaoyu, do you want a hug from your big brother? Long Chen kneeled down and clapped his hands, smiling. Mommy, I'm afraid. The little girl continued to hide behind Mrs. Long shyly. Foolish girl, that's your big brother. Did you forget how he has saved us? Mrs. Long looked at Xiaoyu tenderly, rubbing her small head. But he's different from the paintings you showed me. He's a bit savage, whispered Xiaoyu into Mrs. Long's ears. Hearing this, the three of them immediately laughed. But Long Chen's laughter was a bit self-mocking. He knew what painting Xiaoyu was talking about. That was the comic that had been extremely popular back in Phoenix Cry. At that time, Long Chen had truly just been a youth. Now, over 2 years had passed and he had already grown up. Not only had his face become more steadfast, but due to the struggles on the cultivation path, he had also slaughtered countless people. That murderous aura in his bones was hard to conceal. Although Long Chen had already withdrawn that aura, Xiaoyu was a child and was exceptionally sensitive to that kind of aura. She naturally felt he was scary. Seeing that Xiaoyu refused to get closer, Long Chen simply smiled and told Mrs. Long to do her best to coax her. Long Chen went into another room and gave Long Tianxiao a medicinal pill to regrow his limbs. In just an incense stick's worth of time, he was fully healed. Chen, you've had it hard in the outside world. Long Tianxiao patted Long Chen on the shoulder, sighing. Although Long Chen was now the same height as Long Tianxiao, In Long Tianxiao's eyes, Long Chen would forever be that small child. Seeing Long Chen's steadfast face, Long Tianxiao felt a sour feeling. The only one who knew how much Long Chen had suffered was himself. Long Chen forced back his tears, smiling. "Dad, your child doesn't have it hard. The outside world is very brilliant. I have many great beauties and many hot-blooded brothers." Long Chen told his father about his experiences. However, he only mentioned the good parts. The sadness, the powerlessness he felt, those portions he omitted. "Chen, your decision today makes me both happy and troubled. I'm happy that even after all those trials and hardships, you still managed to retain your original heart. But I'm also troubled, because even after experiencing that much slaughter, you still haven't been able to make your heart vicious and ruthless. I'm afraid that the same thing will happen again in front of you, and at that time, perhaps you really will fall," sighed Long Tianxiao. Long Chen cared too deeply about the people close to him. That was something gratifying, but such a person would suffer far too much in the outside world. "Dad, don't worry. I definitely won't fall into this kind of trap again," promised Long Chen. "Your mother and I are not going back to Phoenix Cry. We'll find a small village for ourselves to live in peacefully. These years, all I've done is battle and fight. But that never managed to bring anything back for us. This time, it seems I've gained a flash of insight. I want to try being an ordinary person. Hunting, farming, resting when the sun's down, working when the sun's up, living carefree and unrestrained." Long Tianxiao smiled. "Dad. Chen, don't feel bad. You should feel excited for your dad. I really did gain a flash of insight. Living in itself is also a kind of cultivation. Some people care so much about the result that they've forgotten that sometimes the journey of cultivation is even more important than the result. When I was young, I only wanted to get stronger. I cared too much about the result. Now I realize the result is unknown, but the journey is within my control. I won't care about the result for now. What I want to do is allow my journey to become even more brilliant. When you were young, I didn't accompany you while you grew up. That is my greatest regret. Now the heavens have given me another chance, sending Xiaoyu to my side. I'll properly cherish this chance. I'll stay by her side as she grows up." Chen, there's a certain phrase that's well said: "The horse dislikes the narrow path, and the great pring hates the heavens for being too low." Your world will be even wider, even higher. Don't let your Tao heart be disturbed because of us. Each person has their own goals. You should be happy for us, because we've finally found our own goal, said Long Tianxiao. He patted Long Chen on the shoulder. Long Chen looked at his father. His father's eyes were completely calm without the slightest reluctance. "Yes, Dad." "All right, go play with your sister now. You're her idol and she always talks about you." "But she doesn't like me." "Ha." Their family peacefully passed 3 days together. During these 3 days, Long Chen accompanied his sister with Little Snow. Long Xiaoyu liked Little Snow especially and wasn't the slightest bit afraid of him. In fact, she would even sleep on his back when she was tired. Long Chen leaned against Little Snow, rubbing his head. He was filled with peace. In truth, happiness was very simple. Why did people have to fight to the point of you die or I die? In this calm town, Long Chen felt a peace he had never felt before. It was like he had left the endless struggles of the world. But he knew this peace was just temporary. He still had to return into a bloody current and continue his life. That was because if he didn't struggle, he wouldn't be able to learn about his origins. He might be able to avoid this struggle, but that would be too cruel to his biological parents. The violet jade pendant appeared in his hand again. Rubbing the words on it, he couldn't help but feel pain inside. He didn't know when he would finally be able to see his biological parents. Were they still alive? "Big brother, are you going to leave us?" At some unknown point, Xiaoyu had woken up. She was staring at Long Chen with her large eyes. I know Big Brother is a big hero who will save the world by fighting off those evil demons. Once you defeat those demons, you'll definitely come back to see me," said Xiaoyu excitedly. What? Who told you this? Asked Long Chen. Mom said it and Daddy also said this. That's right, big brother. Why do you call Daddy father or dad? Xiaoyu changed topics so quickly that Long Chen was almost unable to keep up. When I was young, I also called him Daddy. But later, I called him father, because your brother grew up, and calling him that was no longer appropriate. Long Chen remembered when he was as small as Xiaoyu. He had also followed his father around all day, calling him Daddy over and over again. But later, his father had left, and that appellation became foreign. Then I won't grow up. I want to forever call him Daddy, and Daddy will also always love me. Big brother, tis. Xiaoyu suddenly wrapped her arms around Long Chen's neck and gave him a kiss on the cheek. Now, Xiaoyu was much closer to Long Chen, and she no longer felt her previous shyness or fright. Instead, she had now become closest to Long Chen, even forgetting about her father and mother. Big brother, let me tell you a secret. I actually dislike kissing Daddy. Oh, but... Because Daddy's beard is too prickly. Even if he shaves, it grows back so fast, and it's so painful, whispered Xiaoyu. Cough, Xiaoyu, talking about people behind their backs is bad. At some unknown point, Long Tianxiao had appeared behind the two of them, just in time to hear her final words. Daddy! Xiaoyu extended her arms. Long Tianxiao's scolding expression immediately became something caught between laughter and tears, and he lifted her into the air. This move of hers was definitely 100% effective. All right, let's go eat. Mrs. Long's voice rang out from the room. Their family sat around a square table. Although they were just eating ordinary vegetables and tofu, this ordinary meal was extremely joyful. Long Chen stayed here for a full week, but on the 8th day he finally left. He left in the middle of the night, afraid to endure any tearful goodbyes. Long Tianxiao had also said that once Long Chen left, they would also leave and find a quiet, isolated place to live ordinary lives. Finding a comparatively large city, he paid a fee and stepped onto a transportation formation going directly toward the Xiantian Super Monastery. Brothers, I, Long Chen, am coming back. Chapter 609, 609. Qingzhou City's Mo family had disappeared, leaving behind only a huge hole. This ruler, which had dominated Qing Prefecture for countless years, had vanished into thin air. Furthermore, there was a deep abyss in front of the scorched earth forest. The souls of countless experts were buried within that abyss. Even 2C expansion experts had died there. All of this caused huge waves in Qing Prefecture. No one knew what they should do now. Originally, everyone had been waiting for news. But even after 3 days, the Mo family still hadn't returned. After 7 days, a shocking piece of news arrived. The Yin family's ancestral land had been completely razed, and all their people had been killed. That news didn't just shake Qing Prefecture. Even the surrounding prefectures became chaotic. An enormous existence with an inheritance stretching back countless years had been exterminated just like that. Just as people were debating the veracity of this news, an enormous carriage appeared in the air above Qingzhou City. This carriage was pulled by 4 celestial horses. Celestial horses were legendary magical beasts that reached the Xiantian realm when they matured. Their flying speed was incredibly fast, and this was the first time the people of Qingzhou City had seen such magical beasts. These 4 300-meter horses released a terrifying pressure, and when their wings flapped, all of heaven and earth rumbled. The cultivators in the city were all pale, not daring to move. A group of people came down from the carriage. They examined the scorched earth desert as well as the Mo family's old territory and then returned to the carriage, flying in the direction of the Yin family. Once they left, people had only just had a chance to sigh with relief when the void trembled and a huge eagle appeared. Its wingspan was over a mile long, and it was truly capable of shrouding the sun. It circled around Qingzhou City once and then just left. No one even got a chance to see who was standing on the eagle's back. More and more experts came to Qingzhou City one after another. It was unknown what cultivation base those people had, but they all had flying Xiantian magical beasts that shocked the city's cultivators. However, these people had no interest in Qing Prefecture. After looking over the battlefield, they directly left in the direction of the Yin family. Long Chen was riding on Little Snow's back. They were galloping as fast as lightning across the land. Sitting in transportation formations would have saved them 2 days of time. But Little Snow had stayed in the spiritual space for too long. This time, Little Snow was incomparably excited. Although Little Snow had never complained, Long Chen felt deeply ashamed. Little Snow was his companion, not his tool. He needed his own freedom. Long Chen had been too selfish. So this time, Long Chen was willing to sacrifice these 2 days for Little Snow to race around as much as he pleased and release some of his emotions. Little Snow was currently at the late 5th rank. His speed was truly shocking. The sound of space being ripped apart rang out wherever he went. Even Long Chen felt pleasure in this high-speed run, and his mood improved a great deal. They ran into 2 powerful Xiantian magical beasts on their way, but Long Chen didn't even need to raise a finger. Little Snow spat out a single wind blade to kill each one of those mid-Xiantian magical beasts. Those instant kills filled Long Chen with pride. Little Snow's strength had already surpassed the scope of the magical beast world. He had originally just been a 3rd-rank magical beast but had broken through to the 5th rank and was even able to instantly kill across his realm. This was the terror of mutated magical beasts. But Long Chen was also extremely worried. Meng Qi had told him that mutated magical beasts were not allowed by the heavenly Daos. Little Snow would find it more and more difficult as he advanced. If Little Snow's cultivation base simply stopped at the 5th rank, there would be no danger. But Little Snow's cultivation speed didn't show the slightest sign of slowing down even after reaching the 5th rank. In fact, it seemed to be quickening. The 6th rank was equivalent to the human Xiantian realm. That was one of the large barriers. It was also one of the major barriers that existed after every 3 realms within the martial path. Qi condensation, blood condensation, and then tendon transformation were the first 3. Tendon transformation was a large barrier and very difficult to reach. But once you reached it, your strength would explosively grow. That was also why Long Chen had been able to dominate blood condensation experts back in Phoenix Cry, but when he had fought the tendon transformation Marquis Yin for the first time, he had been forced to miserably flee. In the same way, of bone forging, meridian opening, and Xiantian, the Xiantian realm was a major barrier and extremely so. This was the most important process for transforming from Hotian to Xiantian. There was a qualitative difference. Most importantly, no matter who it was, no matter how untalented they were, they would have to undergo the baptism of heavenly tribulation. As a mutated magical beast, the heavens had sent down tribulation for Little Snow even when he had only advanced to the 5th rank. Although that heavenly tribulation hadn't been as terrifying as Long Chen's, the destructive aura had clearly been trying to kill him. It was no baptism. Once Little Snow reached the 6th rank, his heavenly tribulation would definitely be incredibly terrifying. Little Snow's strength lay in his offense, not his defense. If it hadn't been for Long Chen, Little Snow would have already died to his last heavenly tribulation. Furthermore, Long Chen had no confidence in being able to block Little Snow's tribulation. That was why he had Little Snow suppress his cultivation base. However, that hadn't been the slightest bit effective. No matter how they tried, Little Snow's cultivation base refused to be suppressed. In just a few months, Little Snow would reach the Xiantian realm. No matter what, I will be there to help you block it. Riding on Little Snow's back, looking at the scenario flying by them, Long Chen was suddenly filled with a grand feeling. Wasn't it just heavenly tribulation? If the 2 of them were both expelled by the heavenly Daos, then they would properly play with these damn heavens. Along with Emo Nian, Mu Shui and the others had also gone. They were forcibly taken away by Mo Yi. One reason was for their benefit, and the other reason was for Long Chen's benefit. He didn't want to see them being used against him again. Mo promised that he would release Mu Shui and the others after 3 years. Mo Gate would groom them with its full strength. That was definitely thousands of times better than being mercenaries. Although he expressed his good intentions, Mo had also expressed that Mu Shui had no choice. Whether or not she agreed, she had to do this. It was a good thing Mu Shui was also an extremely reasonable person. She empathized with Mo and Long Chen's plights, and she expressed that she was extremely excited to receive such a great opportunity. But Long Chen knew she didn't care about this grooming. Otherwise, with Mu Shui's talent, she could join any sect and receive much better grooming than as a mercenary. The Mu Shui mercenary unit cared more about their freedom than anything else. Mu Shui's happy and excited act was just to comfort Long Chen. Long Chen had no choice but to sigh. People were really unable to act as they pleased. Sometimes having emotions caused more pain than being emotionless. Sometimes, being emotionless allowed a person to be much more carefree. Finally, Long Chen saw distant mountains with mist surrounding them. He had arrived at the Xiantian Super Monastery. Who's there? This place is Elder Long Chen. The dozen disciples guarding the entrance had just been about to interrogate Long Chen when they recognized him. Greetings, Elder Long Chen. The disciples all hastily bowed, filled with reverence and worship. 3 days ago, the monastery head had gathered everyone and shown them a certain scene. There were 2 parts. The first part was the battle where Long Chen had killed Yin Wushang's clone, and the second part was where Long Chen had defeated Yin Wushang's true body. Seeing how powerful Long Chen was, all the disciples and elders had felt their blood boiling. At the same time, they also felt a great deal of glory. Being a member of the Xiantian Super Monastery just like Long Chen made them feel extremely proud. For an ordinary cultivator to defeat a celestial of the same realm, just how shocking was that? Elder Long Chen, you're still alive. Great. Back when Long Chen had been forcibly teleported by the Yin family's expert, there were only a few people who thought Long Chen would be able to escape alive. Later, when news that the Yin family had been destroyed spread, many guessed that Long Chen had already died, which was why Mo Gate had released their fury on the Yin family. Now seeing Long Chen alive in front of them, these disciples were incredibly moved. One of the disciples hastily raised a hammer and smashed it into the bell by his side. The sound of the bell rang throughout the entire super monastery. Are you crazy? That's the alarm bell. I'm not an attacker. Long Chen jumped in fright. Had he somehow become an enemy of the super monastery? Fuck, I hit the wrong one. That disciple was filled with regret. There were 2 bells. Their sounds were completely different. One was used for receiving important guests, alerting the supermonastery's experts to come out and greet them for courtesy. But the other was the alarm bell. That bell was already slightly rusted, because it seemed this bell had never been rung up until now. Seeing that Long Chen had returned, that disciple had been incredibly excited, and this huge of a matter was something he had to alert the whole super monastery about. That would lift the entire mood of the super monastery. As a result, though, he had mixed up the positions of the 2 bells, directly ringing the alarm bell. Now, the entire super monastery was thrown into chaos. The void trembled, and countless runes appeared in the sky. A translucent barrier appeared over the entire super monastery. Long Chen also heard countless startled cries, as experts surged out in a huge army. Who dares barge into my Xiantian super monastery? A cold cry rang out. Long Chen helplessly sighed as he recognized that to be Shui Wuhan's voice. I'm doomed, absolutely doomed. I'm going to be expelled from the super monastery. The disciple that had rung the bell almost cried. He had truly caused a huge disaster. Even the grand formation had been activated. That cost an ocean's worth of spirit stones. Thinking of that, he had an urge to just directly kill himself. As for the other disciples, they were also ashen. Considering this gross error, it would not be odd for them to be expelled as well. Long Chen, you're still alive. Shui Wuhan appeared in the sky with her wings. When she saw Long Chen, even with her calm nature, her voice quivered slightly. Chapter 610. Seeing that familiar figure, the entire super monastery was startled. That person had actually returned alive. Long Chen. A burst of fragrance blew over as a figure threw herself into Long Chen's embrace, sobbing. A pair of fists beat his back. "You scoundrel, we all thought you." Tang Wana was constantly sobbing, not even able to form her words. She just tightly embraced Long Chen as if she was afraid he would run off as soon as she let go. Seeing Tang Wana cry in his embrace, Long Chen felt a burst of pain in his heart. Although Tang Wana was normally fierce, her emotions toward him were completely sincere. "You thought I had died? Didn't I already say I would become a completely new and improved scoundrel? A scoundrel like me won't die." Long Chen laughed. "You scoundrel, you damn scoundrel, you're laughing? You just don't know, when we heard you were teleported to the Yin family, we felt like the sky was collapsing." The Shentian Supermonastery had first received the photographic jade of Long Chen killing Yin Wushang's clone. Only later did they receive the photographic jade of Long Chen fighting Yin Wushang's true body, and only then did they learn that Long Chen had been teleported to the Yin family's ancestral land. For this matter, Shui Wuhan had immediately rushed over to the Yin family's ancestral land. But at that time, it had already been completely destroyed. Back then, there had also been countless other experts examining the remains. Their deduction was that Long Chen had been killed by the Yin family, and the Mo family had come too late. That was why they had furiously destroyed the Yin family despite the consequences. Exterminating an ancient family came with grievous consequences. The Mo family had provoked a disaster for themselves. They had hastily fled, not daring to show their tails. This conclusion was extremely reasonable. If Long Chen had still been alive at that time, then no matter how stupid the Yin family was, they wouldn't have fought to the end under the threat of Mo Mountain Seal. They would have simply handed Long Chen over, and then the Mo family wouldn't have destroyed the Yin family. That was because once the Yin family was destroyed, Mo Gate would no longer have a place to call home. Exterminating an ancient family would bring on the wrath of the Ancient Family Alliance. No matter how powerful the Mo family was, they wouldn't be able to defend against such a powerful existence. They could only run. Considering the consequences of destroying an ancient family, if Long Chen had been alive, how could the Mo family do something so crazy without care for the consequences? So Shui Wuhan's heart had immediately sunk. When she had returned to the super monastery, she hadn't said a single word to the Dragon Blood Legion. But just from her face, all their hearts had turned cold. It was just as Tang Waner said. The sky really was falling. During the past few days, Tang Waner and Meng Qi had been crying the entire time. They were unable to accept this result. Now that Long Chen had returned, Tang Waner could only grab onto him and sob. "Long Chen, I'm glad you could return, really, really glad." Meng Qi also appeared in front of Long Chen. However, her fairy-like face was covered with tears, and her voice was also choked with sobs. "Sorry, I've caused you to worry." Long Chen reached out a hand and pulled Meng Qi into his embrace as well. Holding two tear-stained beauties in his embrace, smelling their fragrance, feeling their bodies quivering against his, Long Chen was filled with regret. "All right, there are too many people and it's not appropriate. Let's wait until there's no one around before we get affectionate." Long Chen leaned down and whispered into their ears with a voice only they could hear. Meng Qi immediately turned red and escaped from Long Chen's embrace. As for Tang Waner, she immediately turned hostile, giving Long Chen a kick. "Huh, no way, you really turn hostile faster than the flipping of a page." Long Chen laughed, dodging Tang Waner's kick. Seeing Long Chen teasing the two women, Zhou Qingyi's expression was cold. She hadn't expected Long Chen to actually survive. "Long Chen, what a hearty life you have. Congratulations, congratulations." Zhou Qingyi's facial muscles didn't twitch, and her voice was full of hostility. Long Chen turned to her and indifferently said, "Sorry I disappointed you. In this world, good people don't die easily, and bad people don't die easily either. Only those people who like to play with schemes and stab other people in the back are easily done for. Assistant Monastery Head Zhou, let me bless you with a long life. I'm sure you'll have a lifespan of 100 years." Zhou Qingyi's expression sank. She had long since surpassed 100 years of age. Saying she would have a lifespan of 100 years was cursing her to have already died. Assistant Monastery Head Zhou, I'm sure you'll have a lifespan of 100 years. At this moment, Guo Ran, Gu Yang, Song Mingyuan, Yu Zifeng, and Li Qi joined in. Zhou Qingyi turned ashen. Shui Wuhan's expression was calm, but she was incredibly refreshed inside. Long Chen's return caused the entire super monastery to become excited. All the disciples treated Long Chen as an idol. For Zhou Qingyi to provoke Long Chen now, she really had been looking to be crapped on. Alright, to celebrate Long Chen's escape from calamity, the super monastery will hold a 3-day feast. As for the matter of you ringing the wrong bell, I'll wave it off. But if you do it again, you'll immediately be expelled from the super monastery. Everyone can disperse. After saying that, Shui Wuhan ordered the grand formation be taken down, and then left just like that. The disciples guarding the entrance went wild with joy. Their huge error had actually been forgiven so easily. Zhou Qingyi's expression was dark, and it was unknown what she was thinking, but she also left. The Dragon Blood warriors surged forward. Alright, this isn't the place to talk. Let's go back. Meng Qi and Tang Wan'er held Long Chen's arms, with the Dragon Blood warriors following behind them. In front of countless people's fervent gazes, they returned to the Dragon Blood Legion's encampment. This was a private territory the super monastery had given to the first monastery. That was all set up by Shui Wuhan. For the Dragon Blood Legion's protection, she had set up a private space where outsiders were not allowed to disturb them. From Tang Wan'er, Long Chen learned that after Long Chen had led Yin Wushang away, they had been sneak attacked several times by the corrupt path on their journey. However, those attacks hadn't been very powerful. The Dragon Blood Legion had slaughtered out a path for everyone to return to the super monastery. Only a few disciples died beneath the blades of the corrupt path. The corrupt path's sudden attack this time had truly been large in scope. Over 10 of the monasteries around the first monastery had been completely destroyed. Furthermore, the path the first monastery's disciples had fled seemed to have been in the corrupt path's calculations, as they had run into several ambushes. "Where's Elder Tu Fang?" asked Long Chen. Everyone became silent, a mournful expression appearing on their faces. Long Chen's heart sank. Elder Tu Fang had actually fallen. Although Elder Tu Fang's cultivation base hadn't been high, he had been an incredibly righteous person. He was completely impartial, and he had won the respect of all the disciples. His death filled their hearts with grief. Their sect leader Ling Yunzi had left. Elder Tu Fang had died. They had only been in the first monastery for a flash before it was destroyed. That kind of feeling was truly uncomfortable. "Senior apprentice Brother Long, the monastery head wants to see you." A disciple suddenly ran over with a report. Long Chen had everyone rest for now, and he left by himself to Shui Wuhan's room. As soon as he entered, Shui Wuhan grabbed his collar. "You little brat, I really should give you a beating." Shui Wuhan glared ferociously at Long Chen. But after saying that, her heart softened and she rebuked, "Do you know just how the past few days have felt for us?" Hee, junior brother was wrong to make big sister worry. Seeing a grand sect leader talk like this to him, Long Chen truly felt like Shui Wuhan treated him as a brother. His heart warmed and he hastily smiled. You're still laughing? If you had agreed to join the super monastery back then, wouldn't you have been able to avoid all of this? Now, not only did you almost lose your life, but you've also implicated the Mo family. You sigh. Just what am I supposed to say to you? You really are a troublemaker, sighed Shui Wuhan. Long Chun couldn't help but feel a bit helpless. The Mo family had to leave. Moe had already said that even if it hadn't been for the Lin and Yin families, they would still have left in the near future. Even since Mo Nyen had merged with those heavenly Dao seeds and become a celestial, they had been planning on bringing Mo Nyen away to their ancestral land and making Mo Nyen continue their inheritance. That inheritance was something only a celestial had the qualifications to receive. And Mo Nyen was not an ordinary celestial. He had merged with 2 heavenly Dao seeds, which had caused a mutation. The Mo family had already been getting impatient. Long Chen's matter had just been an opportunity for them. Before the Mo family left, they had wanted to go out with a bang. Otherwise, that wouldn't be in accordance with Mo Yi's style. But Long Chen could only keep quiet about that information. So in front of Shui Wuhan's rebukes, Long Chen could only smile, causing her to have an urge to rage. Speak, what exactly happened? How did you escape the Yin family? Did the Mo family save you? Asked Shui Wuhan. When did I go to the Yin family? I was wrapped around by some mysterious energy, and then there was a sudden spatial fluctuation which teleported me up in the sky. When I fell on the ground, I almost turned into a pancake. I had to spend several days recuperating, and then when I went to a nearby city, I heard that the Yin family had been destroyed. I hesitated for a while and then decided it was best to first return to the super monastery. The outside world is too dangerous. So this loafer has finally returned. Long Chen laughed. Hearing this, Shui Wuhan couldn't help but sigh. If it's as you say, then there won't be any problems, and I'm much more relieved. Otherwise, I would have had to send you away. What? But you really need to ask? Do you not realize how much trouble you caused this time? An ancient family's destruction will involve the Ancient Family Alliance. If they investigate, this matter will become much more serious. Why do you think Mo Gate had to flee? If you were saved by Mo Gate, then the Ancient Family Alliance would place their sights on you and force you to tell them Mo Gate's whereabouts. That was the most thorny problem, sighed Shui Wuhan. In any case, just remember, no matter how they ask you, you know nothing about Mo Gate's current situation. Understand? Yes. Good. Then you can go rest. Go comfort those 2 little beauties of yours. They cried so much these few days that even my heart broke. If the little beauties need comforting, then does the big beauty also need it? You little rascal! You dare tease me like this? You must be looking for a beating. No, but don't you think putting it like this makes you seem much younger? Long Chen laughed, and as a result, he was directly thrown out of Shui Wuhan's room. Chapter 611. When Long Chen returned to his residence, he saw that Meng Qi and Tang Wan'er were in his courtyard, leaning against Little Snow and quietly muttering. He didn't know what they were saying, but the 2 of them were smiling beautifully. The courtyard was quiet, and the 2 of them were more beautiful than flowers. Long Chen leaned against the entrance, watching as the 2 of them talked and laughed. Occasionally, their bell-like laughter would ring out. He felt intoxicated. Long Chen, what are you just standing there for? You look like a thief. Tang Wan'er and Meng Qi suddenly noticed Long Chen. Beautiful as jade, like a scene from a painting, as if made by the heavens, a perfect harmony. I really was unable to disturb it. Long Chen laughed. It'd be strange if anyone believed you. Speak, just how many women did you play around with this time? Tang Wan'er glared at Long Chen. Slander, a completely unjust accusation. There was definitely nothing like that. Long Chen raised his hands as if crying injustice at the heavens. Awu. Hear that? Little Snow says he will testify for me. Long Chen laughed. Woo-woo. Meng Qi suddenly laughed. Little Snow says that Long Chen ended up running into someone called Mu Shui. Just who is this Mu Shui? Long Chen's face darkened. Little Snow had actually betrayed him at this critical time to side with Meng Qi. Hurry up and speak. Don't try acting taciturn while you come up with a lie. Tang Wan'er glared at Long Chen, seeming like she would cruelly torture him for the answers. Long Chen didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Of Meng Qi and Tang Wana, one was gentle and soft, while the other was fiery and explosive. When the two were combined, it was truly like he was under interrogation. Long Chen sat down with the two of them. He told them everything that had occurred once he had left the monastery, except the matter with dragon experts' help and the real reason for the Mo family leaving. It was naturally better for as few people as possible to know about those things. Having that burden rest on his shoulders was enough. Who asked men not to let their women worry so much? That Yin family really was hateful. They actually kidnapped uncle and aunt. They deserved to be destroyed. Tang Wanner clenched her teeth. The fact that uncle and aunt are living in seclusion and having a peaceful life isn't necessarily a bad thing, comforted Meng Qi. Sorry, I've caused you two to worry. Long Chen couldn't help but feel sorry toward the two of them. Long Chen. Meng Qi and Tang Wanner gently leaned against Long Chen. Smelling his familiar scent, they felt extremely warm inside, filled with peace and joy. That's right, I almost forgot to tell you this. Sister Chu Yao has left the Skywood Palace, said Tang Wanner. Where did she go? Half a month ago, Sister Chu Yao stepped into the Xiantian realm. She actually awakened a manifestation, becoming a powerful celestial. The Skywood Divine Palace sent someone to bring her back to the Skywood Sacred Land. Apparently, that's very, very far from here. So Sister Chu Yao wanted to see you before leaving, but at the time, you were with the Mo family in Qing Prefecture. This matter came so suddenly that as a result, Sister Chu Yao could only leave. Thinking of Chu Yao's sad and disappointed expression as she had left, Tang Wanner's eyes reddened and she almost cried. This is what Sister Chu Yao left for you. Meng Qi handed a scroll to Long Chen. Long Chen opened the scroll. There was a painting on it. That painting depicted a martial stage with a youth fighting a human-shaped monster with long fur all over its body. Seeing that scene, Long Chen immediately recalled his fierce battle with Huang Chang back in the Phoenix Cry Lantern Festival. At that time, Huang Chang had used beast transformation to turn into this form. His own appearance had been slightly immature. However, his eyes contained endless rage. The drawing itself was just average, but the drawing of him was remarkably lifelike and perfect. On one side of the painting was a line of graceful characters. The dragon swims across the 4 oceans. The phoenix flies throughout the 9 lands. Seas of blood may block us, but we will never give up our path. Dragon and phoenix will both live to old age. This was their promise to each other. At that time, they had been insignificant figures, but even in the face of irresistible power, they still hadn't retreated. They had both expressed their true thoughts. Seas of blood may block us, but we will never give up our path. Dragon and phoenix will both live to old age. For me, Yao, you're willing to be bathed in blood? Why bother? Long Chen looked up at the sky, sadness flashing in his eyes. Chu Yao had a quiet, peaceful temperament. She didn't like fighting. But in order to help him, in order to protect him, she had chosen the path of an expert. That was an endlessly bloody path. But she had stepped onto it without looking back. Cultivation was a path of no return. Once you stepped on it, there was no chance to step off. Even if Long Chen gave up on cultivation right now, it would have no meaning at all. There were still countless enemies that would come find him. Giving up his cultivation was just crippling his martial might, allowing the heavens to decide his fate. Then his ending would be incomparably cruel. Chu Yao had also realized the cruelty of cultivation, and she had firmly chosen to become stronger. But the fact that she hadn't managed to see Long Chen before leaving was her greatest regret. Thinking of Chu Yao standing alone as she looked in the direction of Qing Prefecture, Long Chen felt like needles were stabbing his heart. Long Chen, don't think too much about this. Once a person steps on the path of cultivation, there's no looking back. We all have to get stronger. Once we stand at the peak of the martial path, our fates will in our own hands. Seeing the pain in Long Chen's expression, Meng Qi couldn't hold back from comforting him. That's right. We all have to work hard at our cultivation. Sister Chu Yao is waiting for us, and maybe Sister Jiqiu has also revived. We'll all get stronger and meet again one day, said Tang Wan. Thinking of Yi Jiqiu, a sad but beautiful scene resurfaced in Long Chen's mind. Yi Jiqiu's icy goddess-like face's first smile had been like a blooming ice lotus, beautiful but poignant to the peak. Long Chen, don't cry. A hero capable of supporting heaven and earth shouldn't cry for a woman. I don't want you to be laughed at by others. I really was very happy those days when I accompanied you. The only regretful thing is that those days were just temporary. I won't get to see you standing at the peak of the world. Long Chen, didn't you always want to see me smile? Then I can let you see it one time. Yi Jiqiu's voice once more resounded in his mind. It felt like it had been a lifetime ago. Thinking of how Yi Jiqiu might be revived, Long Chen was filled with a lofty ideal. He wouldn't allow a repeat of that tragedy. He would get stronger and trample all his enemies beneath his feet. After coming in contact with that dragon expert, after seeing that scene up in the void, Long Chen felt himself to be incredibly minuscule. The first thing he had to do was to get stronger. Meng Qi Wan, do you want to become a celestial? Long Chen suddenly asked out of nowhere. What? Meng Qi and Tang Wan'er thought their ears had broken. I should have the ability to turn one of you into a celestial. So decide which of you wants to try it. Long Chen was extremely confident. On his way back here, he had noticed a strange discovery that had almost made him go crazy. On the way, he had killed 2 Xiantian magical beasts and thrown their corpses into the black soil, turning them into life energy. Those withered trees had slowly revived. But the strength of 2 magical beasts was still just a drop in the ocean. The trees had only recovered the slightest vitality. In order to fully recover, it would require quite some time. Long Chen noticed that all the huge trees had died, but there was one tree that was still flourishing without the slightest sign of withering. That small tree's leaves all contained a faint rune. But each rune was incomparably clear and released a powerful fluctuation. The thing that filled Long Chen with disbelief was that at some point, this small tree had borne a fruit. That fruit was only the size of a fist, and it was covered with runes that emitted powerful fluctuations. Seeing those runes, Long Chen had almost cried out. Those runes were the same runes Yin Wushang had summoned with his manifestation. Even the fluctuations were similar. However, this fruit's energy was powerful, but it wasn't berserk. Long Chen had directly plucked it and swallowed it. He found that it had a heavenly Dao seed inside it, just like the Dao seeds in Mo Gate. But Long Chen was depressed to find that no matter how he tried to absorb it, it refused to merge with him. In the end, the primal chaos bead had directly taken back the Dao seed and thrown it into the black soil again. That small tree once more bore a fruit, one exactly the same as the one Long Chen had swallowed. Seeing this situation, Long Chen knew that the primal chaos bead had to have absorbed Yin Wushang's core runes when he had killed him in order to form this Dao rune fruit. Furthermore, this Dao rune fruit had no will that was fighting him. Long Chen didn't know why he was unable to absorb it. But just because he wasn't able to absorb didn't mean others couldn't. So Long Chen had an extremely brazen idea. In the future, each time he killed a celestial, wouldn't he also gain a Dao rune fruit? And then wouldn't there be another celestial by his side? Just what would an army of over 300 celestials look like? Thinking of that, Long Chen felt like he might go crazy. It didn't seem all too impossible. The theory was solid. Give it to one. I'm a soul cultivator, and it seems the power of a celestial isn't able to help me much. But Wan is a wind cultivator, and if she becomes a celestial, her wind blades will reach a terrifying level, said Meng Qi. Sister Meng Qi, Tang Wan was about to decline. Meng Qi's right. Wan, your temperament is very explosive. Perhaps becoming a celestial can mellow you out a bit. You truly are in need of it, said Long Chen. Bastard, if you don't anger me for a day, will you feel unwell? Raged Tang Wan. Come, be my experimental guinea pig. There's no need to say so much. Let's go somewhere secluded to do some exciting stuff. Meng Qi couldn't help but smile strangely as she watched these two clowns enter a private room. Chapter 612. What Meng Qi didn't expect was that Long Chen already came out just an incense stick's worth of time later. "You're done this quickly?" she asked. "Meng Qi, if you put it like that, I'll be very hurt," said Long Chen. Meng Qi was at first confused, but then seeing the teasing in Long Chen's eyes, she immediately turned red, rebuking, "All day, your head is just full of indecent thoughts." Long Chen knew Meng Qi's temperament was more gentle and not like Tangwan. These kinds of jokes weren't suitable for her, so he laughed. "That's just because I found that I was worried for nothing. There wasn't the slightest difficulty. One is in the process of refining the Dao rune fruit. Although it's slow, there's not the slightest bit of danger." Long Chen had been standing by Tang Wanner's side when she had consumed the Dao rune fruit. But he found that the fruit didn't have the slightest resistance and simply allowed Tang Wanner to absorb it. However, the amount of energy in it was too great, and Tang Wanner needed a bit of time. Long Chen had gotten impatient and come out on his own. From this experiment with Tang Wanner, Long Chen's confidence rose even higher. It seemed his crazy thoughts were actually realizable. Of course, the precondition was that he managed to kill that many Celestials. However, Celestials were rare. The majority of them were hidden by their sex. Someone like Yin Wushang who roved around was not at all common. The reason Yin Wushang could be so rampant was because he had his background as a member of an ancient family as a deterrence, as well as the fact that it was just his clone. After all, if he only relied on his true body's cultivation and didn't have the battle experience from his clone, there was no way he could become a true expert. But the world was large, and there were countless geniuses. Celestials were not guaranteed to be safe. So Yin Wushang only dared move around in the surrounding few prefectures. Only by staying within the range of the Yin family could he guarantee his safety. Thus, the chance of Long Chen finding another celestial wandering around was very low. Furthermore, killing one of them would be offending an enormous power. It came at a heavy price. As for the Dao rune fruit, Long Chen merely said it was a kind of miraculous fruit that was born with Dao runes. After consuming it, there was a chance that a person could become a celestial. He didn't tell them the true origin of the fruit. If he let them know that this fruit was Yin Wushang's core runes, then it was unknown whether or not Tang Wanner would immediately reject it. So Long Chen kept this secret to himself. All he had told them was that he was not sure how these fruits were born. Perhaps he would learn the requirements in the future, but for now, it seemed like it relied on the weather. Meng Qi and Tang Wanner had thought he had just been spouting rubbish, but in truth, Long Chen's words weren't a complete lie. That was because when Celestials fought, the weather really would normally become worse. So looking at the weather wasn't absolute nonsense. As for this so-called Dao rune fruit, there were actually many kinds of these in this world, so the name didn't sound foreign. But in Long Chen's view, it shouldn't be called Dao rune fruit but a kind of heaven-defying heavenly Dao fruit. Furthermore, these weren't natural but man-made. After settling Tang Wanner's matter, Long Chen gathered up the Dragon Blood Legion. He saw that the excitement in their eyes still hadn't faded. "Boss, when are you going to bring us out for a fight? My spear is getting hungry," cried Gu Yang. He was extremely warlike inside, and when he had seen the photographic jade of Long Chen fighting Yin Wushang, he had had an urge to immediately find a large battle for himself. "You want to fight? Could it be you aren't even aware of the flaw that is present in all of your bodies?" asked Long Chen. "Boss, don't scare us." "What flaw are you talking about?" asked Guoran. "You don't have that problem. But the others all have that flaw. Your cultivation speeds have greatly surpassed your mental realms. Right now, your auras are no longer stable and have started to leak out of your control. Because you've advanced too quickly to the late meridian opening realm, you didn't notice it," said Long Chen. Now that he brought it up, everyone was startled. Paying close attention to their auras, they truly did sense slight traces of spiritual qi leaking out. But they didn't sense anything else. You aren't aware that this is a sign your cultivation speed has surpassed your mental realms. It's not obvious now, but once you reach the Xiantian realm, it will become a huge flaw. In truth, it's my fault. I forgot to tell you that since you've all undergone complete tempering, your body will contain a great deal of medicinal pill energy. Once you reach the meridian opening realm, you should have slowed down your cultivation speed, said Long Chen. Then what should we do now? Asked Guyang hastily. It's a good thing I came back in time. Starting today, no one should continue cultivating. Stabilize your auras. Cultivation is like rowing a boat upstream. If you don't advance, you'll fall back. As soon as you stop cultivating, your speed will slow down, and your realm might even slowly retreat. But don't worry, because that kind of recession is just temporary. It can help stabilize your foundation slightly, said Long Chen. That's all? Asked Yu Zifeng. Of course not. This is just a stopgap. To truly stabilize your foundation in a short time requires you to undergo true life and death battles, relying on the pressure of death and the intensity of a fierce battle to completely stabilize your cultivation bases, said Long Chen. Then, should we go after the leftovers of the Yin family? I hear there are still a few dredges from them that are running businesses. An evil smile appeared on Guo Ran's face. Let that go. Those people are just branch members of the Yin family and not direct descendants. None of them are real experts. To be frank, they're just a bunch of workers that the Yin family didn't care about. Why bother with them? Furthermore, killing a few chickens won't bring you any pressure, said Long Chen. Then what? It seems there aren't any large battles to be fought right now, right? Said Guo Ran. For now, there's no battle to be fought. Everyone should just rest, relax. Play some chess, drink some wine, rest your balls. Go play with some random missions. That was all he had to say. With his reminder, everyone no longer dared to cultivate, and they all scattered to relax. Guo Ran stealthily approached Long Chen. Hee, boss, I have another new invention. Come, let's find a place for me to open your eyes to the world. Outside the Xiantian supermonastery, in an empty space, Guo Ran waved his hand, and an oddly shaped boat appeared in front of him. This boat was 30 meters long, and there were countless notches in it with wind spirit stones embedded into them. There was also a large cannon at the head of the boat. This bronze cannon was 3 feet thick and 2 meters long. Dragon-shaped diagrams had been carved into it to give it a grand feeling. Boss, this is what I built based on the diagram you gave me. I changed up some minor things and I also added a cannon to it. I have special cannonballs for it. One use exhausts 1,000 wind spirit stones. That power is truly awesome. When it comes to Xiantian experts, a single cannon can kill as many of them as there are. I've personally tried using a cannonball against a large mountain. I've also modified the tail, adding a formation to give it the greatest amount of acceleration possible. This boat speed will make it appear like a shooting star in the air. Furthermore, the leather seats are completely adjustable, allowing you to have a 360-degree view and 5 speeds dash. Alright, it sounds and looks pretty amazing. Let's try it out. Long Chen jumped into the boat. Guo Ran sat at the front of the boat, and 2 poles appeared in front of him. He pushed one of those poles forward. The boat's countless wind spirit stones lit up, and the formation runes on the rear also activated. The boat became a ray of light that flew into the sky incredibly fast. How is it, boss? Isn't the feeling of flying amazing? Guo Ran crazily shouted as he controlled the boat. Although this wasn't his first time flying it, he still felt incomparably excited. This is twice the speed of a 5th-rank magical beast. It really is not bad. Long Chen nodded. He had no choice but to admire Guo Ran. He was truly talented. Back then, Long Chen had only come up with a brazen idea. He hadn't expected Guo Ran to actually be able to realize it and to even perfect it to this point. This is just the starting speed. Didn't I say there were 5 speeds? Boss, don't fall off. The boat went through 4 increases of speed, truly becoming like a meteorite soaring through the air. Long Chen even felt that the air resistance was getting painful. This was truly too fast. He had never experienced this speed before. "Boss, how is it?" Guarant's face was already deformed from being blown by the wind, but he still didn't forget to sound immensely pleased with himself. "5, said Long Chen out of nowhere. "What?" "4. "Boss, what are you talking about?" 3. "There are 3 more seconds until we crash into a mountain," said Long Chen lightly. 2. "What the fuck?" 1. Boom! A huge mountain suddenly appeared in front of them. A huge dent was smashed into the flying boat, while Long Chen and Guaran were almost directly thrown off. "Boss, you really know how to mess around." Guaran was slightly speechless. "Your flying boat really is sturdy." Long Chen gave him a thumbs up. Long Chen had sensed that mountain a while ago. But this was just an earthen mountain, and his spiritual strength was able to see through it. So he intentionally didn't warn Guaran. This proved that Guarant's inventions were truly amazing. Even such a high-speed collision didn't break the boat. "Do you want to try firing a cannon?" asked Guaran. "No, although we have many wind spirit stones, they're still limited. It's best to save this little bit." Long Chen shook his head. They wouldn't be able to get more wind spirit stones in the future. To immediately waste 1,000 like that was meaningless. This flying boat is practically a divine weapon that can be used to kill people and run. Properly protect it, and don't expose it if you can. Guaran nodded. This was a secret weapon. After flying for a bit more, Long Chen and Guaran put away the boat and returned to the super monastery. As soon as they returned, a dragon blood disciple ran over. "Boss, experts came looking for you. The monastery head is currently receiving them, and she needs you to get over there as fast as possible." That you're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.